Folks, welcome back to Beer and Business. Today is Wednesday, November 20th. This is Jake.
And this is Darren.
And today on the show, taking over the family business, we've got Liz and Chris McKay in the studio. And I'm excited to talk to you guys because they are second generation owners of Venture Shuffleboard. Really cool company, headquartered here locally. And they had to reinvent a successful family business to survive and grow it into an amazing company that it is today. So I think your story is going to be really helpful to anybody that's had any sort of experience in a family business. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
But before we get into your fabulous story on this podcast, we what do we do, Darren?
Oh, we got to drink a beer.
We're going to drink some beer. So this is interesting. We're all drinking different beers. So I am drinking a brand new one called Lush Lemons. This is a sour with it's got hints of lemon, vanilla, and milk sugar.
Good luck with that.
Wow. Glenn, just remember, Darren said that, not me. And then you're drinking
Glenn
Rebel.
Yeah, Rebel. I had this last week, and this is the one that has melon, mango, strawberry, and candy, but it's an IPA, and this sucker
really
is
good.
Fabulous.
And then, Chris, you're drinking one of the best Belgians I've ever had. It's called Penance. And that's a really nice, sweet, smooth Belgian. So cheers, boys. And Liz, you're drinking tea because you're not much of a beer drinker, so we'll try not to hold that against you.
I appreciate that.
Thanks, Glenn, at Jailhouse Brewing.
Oh, wow. So full disclosure, I'm not a sour drinker, and Glenn knows it from the owner of Jailhouse. This one's pretty good. Even with I was afraid with it being lemon that it was going to be really sour. Yeah, give it a shot.
No peach in there, right?
It's cut with the milk sugar. So it's got kind of a sweet, smooth finish to it. So I'm not all puckered up like they did on Bugs Bunny.
That's not bad.
I know.
It's got a weird smell.
It's called beer. Darren.
I know, but it has a weird. No, it does. It doesn't smell like it tastes. It tastes.
You're right.
Does taste good.
It tastes really good. Yeah,
I could drink half to one of those, maybe.
I think it's really good.
That's good.
Well, guys, thanks for coming into the studio. You guys run a really cool business. You guys do handmade shuffleboards and pool tables and all that, and we'll get into that. But the whole genesis of this conversation is there's been a lot that's happened with this business over the years inside your family, Chris. And so what I'd like to do is tell us about some of your earliest memories of this business.
Well, that's pretty easy. I kind of remember most of it. Back in '87 when my dad started the company, it was always the Saturday morning rides into work in his van, and we'd stop at the deli and we'd get a buttered roll and a Yoo-hoo for me, a coffee for him. And, I started painting the floors when he moved into his first shop. And I pretty much remember that pretty vividly because I got to get yellow paint all over my Air Jordans at the time.
Oh, no.
Boy.
I wish I kept those in a box.
Oh, yeah.
But that's sort of where it started. I was 12 and I was the guy who swept the floor or painted the floor and sort of did all the menial tasks.
So what did your dad do before he started the business?
He was a plant manager for a couple different businesses, a metal shop like he had started back in '87. And he ran a plant that made Dannon yogurt cups when they used to be made here in the country in America. They were wax cups. And he has some background in drafting, and he went to school for drafting. So he's always been sort of mechanical and always liked to mess with things. He was really good with production.
So I'm sure as a 12-year-old, you really had no idea what he was going through starting a business, but probably a special time for you with the whole ritual on Saturday mornings and, getting to spend time, even though it was work.
Yeah, spending time with my dad, that's really what it was. And that's why I think he was so big on me coming in to work with him. He loved when I spent the summers with him, and I'd work probably 3 or 4 days a week in the summer, and I'd work Saturdays during school. And it was a time for him and I to really sort of come together. And, as far as not understanding, he was always very open with me. And I was lucky enough that he sort of kept that door and that window open where I got to see the struggles and I got to see the good and the bad. It wasn't just always good. So, there was definitely times. where it was, pull your hair out kind of stuff.
Sure. So you started off just, really ground floor, helping them get the production space ready, painting the floors, cleaning up. Did the business start with the shuffleboards, or
it didn't? So we started as a metal shop first. So we made widgets, I'll call it. So brackets and things that you would never really see. And that was back in, again, 87.
Yeah.
And we were making metal pool table legs for a coin-operated pool table company a town over from where we were manufacturing. And they subsequently went out of business, and that was in 94. And the salesman at the time approached my dad and said, hey, I think we could make a go of this. You want to build coin-operated billiard tables? And my father, being the businessman that he was, he saw that he had a metal shop and it was working really well. But to add a wood shop to that, really he saw the growth potential in that. And that's why he said, sure, let's give it a shot. And then from there, about 97 is when my father bought the assets of American Shuffleboard, which is a shuffleboard company that goes back to 1928. We brought all those guys in that I was lucky enough to learn from, and added the shuffleboard company to that bottom line, and then rebranded.
And when was that?
1997.
97. So you would have been 22 at the time. So now, is that right?
10 years later.
I mean, I'm not a math
that's
wizard,
right. Yeah,
but
he was 22. Absolutely.
He's a wood shop guy. He's
Yeah.
not
he
that's
cuts
why
wood.
he's got Lizz
He's
here.
trying to
It was
remember.
22.
I'm doing
Doing the
basic
math.
math here.
Yeah, no. Yeah, 10 years later, he was 22. Yeah, because we were married in 99.
And a little aside, you guys are one of the largest shuffleboard manufacturers in the world, aren't you?
I wouldn't say largest. That's not our intention.
I mean, on the high end, because you make
On the high end, absolutely.
beautiful, beautiful stuff.
yeah, as far as the high end, not mass produced coming out of China, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's our goal is not to be the biggest. Our goal is to be the best.
Yeah.
And you guys are the best. I mean, I've been over that shop, and that is impressive. And I've seen all of your stuff, and well, a lot of it, and it's gorgeous, but it is high quality. Anyway,
Thank you.
I digress.
Yeah. So just curious. I mean, a lot of time passed between these milestones. So, starting in 87, buying the assets to what was the name of the company?
American Shuffleboard.
American Shuffleboard. So you guys bought the rights to that in 97. You guys are then married in 99, but a lot of time passed in this. And just curious, at that time when you're at that age and the shuffleboard business is now starting, what were your thoughts about what your dad had done up to that point and his accomplishments as a businessman? Did you ever really think about that?
A little bit, having the insight that he always given me. It's been nice to sort of partake in each milestone that he sort of, got. And so to think back on it as far as, what to see, I'm not sure. I mean, I think every time we've always sort of appreciated it for what it was as it came, and then sort of moved to the next.
So what was it like working in the family business, kind of growing up in it, if you will, starting at 12 years old in your early 20s?
Not easy.
Well played.
So listen, let's be honest. When you're, of course I started when I was 12, but when you're 14 and 15 and you want to go hang out on Friday night,
sure,
but you're getting up at 6 a.m. on Saturday because dad's dragging you out of bed because we got some stuff to do. There's a resentment that comes up, and it's like, I don't want to go to work today.
Sure.
I want to be a teenager, and that was probably the toughest thing. My growth, being a teenager, wanting to not have that responsibility. I look back on it now, and I'm glad he dragged me out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because it gave me the work ethic I have today. I think had he let me get away with, no, that's all right, you don't have to come to work today, I'd be lazy. And I wouldn't have accomplished even what we've done now over the past 8 years.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Now, did he teach you, as the longer you were with him, did he teach you different aspects of the business as you grew older?
Do you think everything he didn't want to do?
I definitely got taught everything he didn't want to do.
Yeah, because what was my favorite story about you is by the time you were 19 and you were, at that point, that was a pretty high point in his manufacturing. You had 20 or 25 employees. You were running double shifts, 2 shifts, 20 hours a day. And Russ was such a sweet, kind-hearted guy, big, boisterous, with a mouth like you wouldn't believe, but really had such a big heart. And by 19, Chris had to hire and fire everybody because Russ
that was
just,
your job,
He did not like to fire
He did
people.
not like to fire people.
Fired by the son of the company.
By the boss's son, who
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
19 and looked
Listen,
11.
A lot of these guys that stayed with my dad, he did not have a high turnover rate. They all knew me since I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
those guys always stuck around because they knew how to work for my father.
Sure.
But the new guys never did.
Wow. So I got to imagine the dynamic here. As a teenager, being a teenager is tough enough. I mean, it's a really awkward time in your life. You're pushing back against your parents for everything, but you had this extra dynamic where now you're also being held accountable for work as well. And I can't imagine that was easy for either one of you guys.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know about him. You'd have to ask him. Unfortunately, he's not here. But it was hard because you're right. You push back. But I wanted to please my father. I was the baby of the family, but I was also the pleaser. And, I loved his respect and earning it. And he made sure to always show me that. It wasn't like I was never good enough or any of that stuff. He was always very thankful for what I did. And I think that was a big part of it. I think in some of these dynamics, sometimes the elder can always be so sort of mean about it. And you're not doing that good enough, or it has its place. And let me tell you, I made a mistake. I got it 10 times worse than any of the other guys who would have made a mistake. So definitely there was that sharpness. But when good things came...
Dad, how come you don't whip the other employees?
Exactly.
Belt again?
Yeah, exactly. But, with the good came the admiration. And I think that's what drove me probably to, want to do better and to learn more. And, as far as the aspects of the business, learning it all, I learned how to run the shop very efficiently.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't think he ever really showed me and let me get into was the financial book side. Thank goodness I had my wife.
Well, and that's where he and I really...
That's where the two of you, that's right.
Yeah, we were very close. Yep.
So you guys got married in 99.
99.
When did you meet?
95.
Yeah, it was 95.
95.
At the Jersey Shore.
Oh, wow. That's
Memorial Day weekend.
Fist pumping
And
madness.
everything that is going through everybody's mind right now is exactly what that weekend was.
I've actually got so many jokes going through my head. I
Yeah.
can't even grab one and say it. It's just...
That's exactly right. It was all of that. It really was all of that.
And a bag of chips.
Yep.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I
Well, I'm glad you guys left that hair behind.
do have a question for you. You said you're the baby of the family.
I am.
How many brothers and sisters?
I only have one older sister.
One older sister. So she wasn't brought into the business.
No, she was a teacher. She went to college to be a teacher. She did work for my father,
Yeah.
on and off throughout. And then she actually ended up, when he passed, taking over the other segment, our metal segment that we had started over, and stayed in New Jersey. Then we brought the shuffleboards down to Georgia.
It was expected. I'm assuming it was just expected that this was going to be your business. Your dad's building
absolutely.
this business, and it's going to be Chris's no matter what.
120%.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
I had no say in my future, which is one of those sticking points.
So what happened? I mean, things are going along smoothly. You meet your future wife down at the beach and on the Jersey Shore. You guys get married. You're still working for your dad at that point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And things are still moving. You're learning the books now.
Well, so
How did you get involved?
I have a degree in interior design, and that was
What does that have to do with accounting?
Nothing.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to
I
make sure.
raised my hand.
Okay.
But
Listen,
she is really good at it.
I'm
so.
really-
Very good at it.
Here's the thing. I think it's a big picture thing. I think numbers can show a variety of it's really not black and white. Books are really not black and white. But I had a degree in interior design and worked my way up from answering phones at a pretty big residential design firm to being the project manager and assistant to the principal there, which was awesome. I learned a lot, but then got pregnant. And that all went away really fast, which was shocking to both Chris and I.
Before or after you were married? Or
So when
why
I was,
you got married?
well, we
Shotgun.
got, well, no, yeah, no. So I got pregnant. So married in 99, pregnant in 2001. We were pregnant actually 9/11 and didn't know it. So our daughter came in May of 2002, and I basically was pushed out of my like amazing job, and so then I sort of floundered a little bit, stayed home with her a little bit, and then had a job, and that didn't quite work out. And so in November of that year, it's now, actually right now, I'm at 17 years being in this business. Yeah. That's interesting that we're here. It's literally like within days of this.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
We timed it that way.
Yeah. So I was brought into the fold. Yeah. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
So I was brought into the fold because I had a baby, and Chris and I decided with some other personal stuff that what was best was to keep her close. And so I came on.
The nursery was born at Brook Meadow?
At Brook Meadow. Well, Wendy brought her babies, who are a few years older than ours, a little bit, but really in mass, like we set up legit, like.
Well, hopefully you could have built them a really nice playpen.
They had a really cool. They had a really nice playpen. Yeah, they had
mahogany. What is that? A dark cherry? What?
Well, we actually had. So you joke, and I don't know where it ever got to, but we had a 6-foot long, 24-inch high shuffleboard table that our kids could play from about 18 or so months on.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, but we started there, and I started as Russ called me his girl, and that was so for feminists out there, it was not a term at all negative. It was like his gal Friday. So I was his right hand, or sort of grew into that, and that's where. When Russ didn't really discuss with Chris the financials and the stresses of that was sort of where I picked up in the office. So we talked about just the logistics of how the day-to-day operations happen on a business that, is big enough to, have 15 or 20 employees and still small enough that, we're a little bit scratching head on making our payroll this week.
So I got a question, but before I get to it, hey, listen, if you're on video, like, look at this shit. I'm showing Chris's beer.
Pours worse than Jake.
For all of the hate mail and nasty messages I've got on social media about my inability to pour beer, I think Chris is worse at it. So thank you. I'm no longer the worst.
The flavor of the beer.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right.
Well, there's a lot of air in there, buddy.
Without that, you don't get the proper flavoring and depth. So that's what we're going with.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to plagiarize that the next time I screw one up.
There you go.
Hey, at least they didn't steal
Chris McKay said.
Oh my God, I've gotten so much shit about how bad I am at pouring beers. Anyways, so you're in the family business for over 10 years. You guys get married, and now you come into the family business. Now you got the dynamic of dad. Mm-hmm. I guess sisterhood worked it a little bit.
Yep.
And now new wife and kid. Boy, the stress must have gotten way easier at that point, huh?
Well, it's my youngest at that point. I had a hiking backpack, so she used to get in the backpack, and I used to go set up machines with her on my back.
And this is before social media. I really wish that we had videos and
or OSHA.
Well, she had ears. Yeah, she had ears on. So
she would walk around with the rifle muffs on, so they block out all the sound, and I would be sitting on there. Either running a machine or
so did you take a backpack and cut holes in it for her legs?
Well, no, like a hiking backpack, like a Kelty backpack. No, legit. We had a hiking pack that she would just hop in, and he would leave it on the floor, and she would just go over. Emma was nonverbal for several years when she was first born, and she would go over and she would just kind of get into it, and she would just wait for him.
That's awesome.
It was time to take a walkabout.
Yeah,
way back then it was called a papoose.
Yeah, back in the day.
I used to have a papoose. So how was it then now working, you got your wife in the business and all the other dynamics of working in the business with your father? How was that?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, Liz and I have always had a great amount of respect for each other, and I think that's a huge thing, and we'll probably hit on that 100 more times in this interview. So it's always was pretty easy, and I honestly was separate. There were days where I wouldn't see her at all. So I'd be out in the shop and doing my thing and making sure production was running right. And
we would just have lunch together.
We would have lunch together, and that was pretty much about it. So there's obviously two sides to that. The nice thing is I get to see my wife all day long. Then we go home, and there's always sort of a constant running commentary between the two of us throughout the day. It makes for a quiet evening sometimes because we don't want to talk to each other. And not so much because we're mad at each other. It's just because we've already talked about everything we possibly could talk about in a day. So there was no catching up. Hey, how was your day at work? I know how your day was at work because I was there.
Right.
Yeah.
You mean Liz ran out of conversation?
Amazingly enough, there were some times, yes.
Holy crap.
Doesn't happen very often now.
Can't imagine
Not
that.
with 3 children.
No.
No, not at all.
No.
But I mean, you come home and so you would leave work at work. And when you got home, did you try not to talk about work at
That's
all?
a constant. That's 17 years of conversation.
At the beginning, I would say yes. My father would bring up work outside of work more than, say, Liz and I would.
Yeah.
Now for us, no, there's no shut off valve, unfortunately. I mean, we're constantly talking about direction, and because the quiet times when we're laying in bed at night, we're trying to read books and kind of expand our minds. We're like, well, what if we did this, or how about we do that? So that's there's no getting away from it.
Yesterday morning at 5:51 a.m. when he looked at me and he goes, "We're just on full blast already."
So
I woke up talking.
Well,
Yeah.
I think any couple with kids can relate to this because like you get that one date night where there's no kids and you go out to dinner and you talk about your freaking kids.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the way it always
What the
works.
hell are we doing? We got time away from them.
That's
They're
exactly
out of the
right.
house and
What's
you're like, what do you
wrong?
want to do? I don't know. We got an empty house. Why don't we just go back there? Why are we out here?
Why are we out here? Why are we in the world?
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
It's so crazy.
I think we end up talking. I think our relationship sort of overlaps both business and home because when we're at work, if we need to talk about the kids, we talk about the kids. And when we're at home, if we need to talk about work, we talk about work. I think our kids are more, they like to hit the pause button. And we've gotten more cognizant in the last couple of years, certainly at pushing the pause button to really tune in and connect with them.
All you do is talk about work.
And, yes.
Like, you have a very nice life because of work.
I didn't hear you complaining when I bought you those clothes last week. But whatever.
Exactly.
That's exactly
That
right.
new cell phone you're using.
That's exactly right.
Well,
So I got a question. So at one point you left.
I did.
And when we were prepping for this interview, you made a really interesting comment to me. You said that I could either work for my father or I could have a relationship with him.
So that was the second time I left.
Okay.
So the first.
There's 2 times you left.
Oh yeah, there were 2.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, please
on
tell.
top of the multiple times I've fired him or he fired me.
Those were always really fun times.
So this was kind of like,
and it's
Orange County Choppers.
It's always interesting when you fire the owner of the business, by
Yes.
the way.
Yeah.
There's no getting out of that. So
I'm just visualizing the Tuttles and their memes where they're yelling at each other.
yeah. So
Like
yes,
that?
agreed.
Yes.
It did. Honestly, there were times where it would get to that point because he wasn't listening to me and I wasn't listening to him, and we just weren't hearing each other, and it would just be sort of like that. But the first time I left, I left to sort of follow a dream that I had. You talk about me being a teenager and not being able to sort of find my way.
Sure.
So at
Okay, so
Emma was, you were,
so 04, I was pregnant with Colin because he was born in 05.
so 2003, 2004, my wife still works with my father. I left to be an audio engineer because I wanted to be, I want to hang out with rock stars all day. And
Can you fix our podcast audio when we're done here?
probably, I don't know. It's honestly been,
If it sounds really good, guys, it's because he fixed it.
it's been 14 years since I've actually worked in audio. Because the day that I stopped, my son was born. He was born with an emergency C-section. So, we talk about Liz coming on board at work. The same sort of situation happened with me when our son Colin was born. The flexibility that a family business gives you was paramount for us. And it wasn't necessarily about the bottom line. It wasn't about the money in my pocket at that point. It was about the way of life that we wanted to live. And
And Colin was your second?
Yeah.
Colin was our second.
Yeah.
It's funny how the second kid, like you'd think the workload doubles, but it's like quadruple. I can't even explain it. It's really weird.
It's a parabolic curve.
It's weird.
If
isn't
anybody
it?
actually draws that, it just is exponentially more.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
2 is more
It's
like
not
7.
it's not twice the amount. It's
Isn't
Yeah.
it crazy?
No,
Yeah,
and then Yeah.
Totally get it.
It's just like our podcasts get better when we
Drink more beer.
Drink more beer.
Yeah.
There he goes. It's the same curve.
It is.
Yeah.
So, so that was the first time I left, and then obviously the second time we decided, you know what, we didn't move far enough, so we moved to Georgia. That
Jersey
was
to Georgia.
Jersey to Georgia.
900
Why?
miles.
Why'd you pick Georgia?
Liz's cousins graduated Stars Mill, and we would be traveling down here often, probably 3 times a year. We would come, and we really enjoyed the area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was relaxing, and we looked at moving into Atlanta and sort of just a change of pace. But the reason why we did that, I think probably getting more of your question, is my father and I, at that point, he was in his early 60s.
So you're 30. Were you
I was
35? Yeah.
So I'm 35. You know, I'm a grown man, supposedly.
I'm a grown-ass man.
Right?
Right. That's exactly with 3 children.
I'm married
right?
with
So
3
this is-
kids.
Married with
why,
3
Third
kids.
one by then.
Yes.
Why
Kate was
can't I?
born. Yep, in 09. Yep. So fast forward to 2011. This is what the
But why
second
can't
time.
why can't I make a decision on which way the company is going to go, and why are you
Right.
holding us back, and why are you doing this? And
Because you felt like you were the future.
I was
you
the,
were.
I was the apparent heir. I've been told this since I was 12 years
Well,
old.
and the total conversation of I'm going to retire, I'm going to retire, I'm going to retire, I need to play more golf. And he kept the part of those when you see those in your head, these blow ups, right? Part of it was he would say, go fucking play golf. Like just let it go.
Just yeah,
and
I got it.
And I got it. And he held so tight. And I think in his mind, logically, he understood that it was time for him to start moving on some of the responsibility. But he had built this from nothing.
And
From
there's so much emotion tied into that.
oh,
isn't there?
absolutely, from nothing. I mean, from $0.
But he showed you everything. I mean, he didn't hold his cards close to
No.
his chest. He
No,
showed you
he
how to
showed
run the
me everything.
shop. He showed you everything. He showed you how to take care of the books and everything on the administrative side. Yet,
But he couldn't
just
let go.
couldn't let
But
go.
he couldn't let go. And post 2008, things were terrible. And
Sure.
I think everybody says that, right? So on the metal side, we probably were down 30 or 35%. On the billiard shuffleboard side, we lost probably close to 35 to 40 brick and mortar dealers that just evaporated, went out of business.
2008, it didn't just affect the housing market.
Oh,
No.
Imagine that.
everybody.
No, it
Really?
affected everybody. The money dried up.
Yeah.
Sure.
So 2009 happened, 2010 happened, and it really wasn't getting better for us. Everything was offshoring at that point because it was
Sure.
so inexpensive. So fast forward to 2011, where Chris decides.
Well, hold on. I
Yeah.
want to ask a question. So when you guys moved to Georgia,
Yeah,
you stepped away from the business.
Yeah.
yeah.
Were you still involved,
No,
Liz? No.
I stepped. I stepped away. So, our youngest, Kate, was born in 2009, and I went back part time after she was born, and so then.
My sister came in at that time.
And then,
to cover.
my
Gotcha.
sister-in-law Wendy came in. So she and I really job shared, and then she came on pretty much in earnest. That 2011, she took over way more. I was working very little at that point, and she was, Russ's Gal Friday at that point. So yeah, when we moved in June, we both stepped away.
But yeah, it was hard because, it was getting back to your, I want a relationship or, a work relationship or a father-son relationship. It was getting to that point where the friction was like, come on already. We need to just figure this out, because I decided it was better for me to take the step and to make the decision to step away versus
Right.
him. He wasn't making the decision.
No.
We had this conversation for well over a year.
Yeah, we
about
told
where do
them.
I stand? Where is it going to go? What are we going to do to move forward? And he wasn't willing to make that decision.
What happened to your relationship when you stepped away? Did it get better?
It did.
Honestly, for the first,
It was.
Well, your wife said
strained.
it did. So that, and your wife is
Sure,
always
it was-
right.
Always right.
Was it strained for?
It was strained.
for a
It
little
was.
while?
Listen, it was
and I wouldn't-
hard.
So I wouldn't use the word strained, but it was awkward for like a month.
Yeah.
But
A month. That was it.
listen,
That's really good.
My husband's
There
pretty
were-
amazing at.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just putting things.
I love
behind
my
it.
father. I mean, and I know he loved me. And I think for us to have spent as much time at that point, I was 35. So we spent
35 years together.
23, 20,
Well, working
23 years
working,
together?
20.
23
Yeah.
years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of that time was spent, we had lived with them
Yeah, we had a family
We had a
compound in New Jersey.
So I would literally spend 24 hours a day with my father.
7 days a week.
And
Seven
your
days a week.
wife.
And my wife.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so the time
Let that sink in.
he was my best friend. At the end of the day, I love my wife. She's my best friend. But really, my dad was my best friend. He was the guy I would go to when I wanted to talk about something or kind of figure something out. And there was no way that relationship wasn't going to not be a positive relationship. So it took about a month for him to get comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this because I know I've talked to some of my vendors
Yeah.
after, and they always said that he was not happy with what I did, but he understood what I did.
And he respected it.
And he respected it.
Well, and he said, I remember talking to one of the painters, one of the powder coaters up in New Jersey, and he said that Russ came to him the week after we left. And this was very sort of, this would have made good scripted reality. So we, rolled up with a 26-foot trailer and we loaded all of our belongings from this family compound, right? All of our everything with our 3 little children into one truck. Did we have 3 cars?
3 cars.
3 cars, 1 trailer, a dog, 3 babies,
And a couple friends.
and a couple of friends loading us up in one day. But my
Sounds like a sitcom. I mean, I want to
it
watch it.
was-
Yeah, it was.
Did you have
It
to
was-
split the record collection with him at certain points?
well, I left all the Christmas stuff and all the for my
Andy
mother. I
Williams
left.
Christmas? Really? You didn't
I
bring that?
did, and I left all the stuff in the kitchen for my mother-in-law.
Oh, that was nice.
But it was. He said to this vendor in Newark, I didn't think they were going to go.
Wow.
He goes, they were packing the truck, and I didn't think they were going to go. So that's really, I don't think he believed it until the moment.
I don't think he ever saw a reality where I was going to leave. Because in his mind, he started this company not just for himself, but really for me. I mean, at the end of the day, he started this for something that I could have later on down the road. I know this.
It's a legacy.
A legacy, absolutely.
think
And that's what
so,
he wanted.
yeah.
He wanted to leave me something
Yeah.
tangible. And it was hard, though, because, they came and visited Labor Day weekend
Yes.
that same year. So we left the end of June.
Yeah.
Because we closed on our house down here on Lizz's birthday.
I get the best birthday presents.
She does get the best
You got a
birthday
house.
presents.
I
She
do. I got a house
Did
for
you
my
have
birthday.
jobs when you were moving down? No
Nope.
jobs.
We're not discussing that. The mortgage company may ask.
No,
They're-
back
No,
then-
we
so
had
back then-
we had no jobs. We had so the plan was we saved. So anybody thinking about this, so we spent 36 months saving, and we were going to land. And I had budgeted 36. We had 12 to 18 months worth of emergency savings that we could live and not. And we just sort of wanted to land and understand what we wanted to do next because we didn't have a clue.
It was a
Used to
reset.
that funny accent down here, right?
And it was
Yeah.
a reset for us because not only my relationship was strained with my father, but Liz and I's relationship started to get strained to the point where we weren't liking each other very much because it was like,
Well, sure, that stuff bleeds over into everything. And
Yeah.
that's one of the big reasons why we want to have this discussion is that in a family business, it's hard to draw lines, right? I mean, and if you think about it, when we're in relationships, we love each other and we support each other.
Right.
But in the workplace, we have to hold each other accountable. And then all this crazy dynamic happens and then all these lines get blurred and it just, so if you have friction with one person, how could it not bleed over into everybody else? It's really tough. It's human nature, right?
I'll go one more step further. Why is my wife giving more attention to my father than me? I mean, really? So we had a triangle going on.
I'm the younger, more attractive version. What the hell?
Right?
Yeah.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
But
So, I
he
mean,
was
so
louder
really-
and signed the checks. So
Well,
yeah.
then there's
There you
that.
go.
Yeah.
So there was, so not only
I
was,
have to be extra nice
That's
to him.
awesome.
yeah, not
That's
only was the
exactly-
dynamic between me and my father, but really it was the dynamic between
the
my
3
wife
of us
and my father.
Yeah, because the
and
3 of
me.
us really ran that business, and Russ was the head of that business for sure, and everything that he said went.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think he valued my opinion, and we talked a lot about strategy those last couple of years. And I think he respected my opinion, and that was hard because then we would go home, and he would want to continue that, connection. But my husband was there, and so where does that? That's a very blurry line for sure.
So you guys moved to Georgia,
Yep.
completely divorced yourself from the business.
Yep.
And then you lost your father.
We did. Yeah. I mean, in November 30th.
It will be 8 years.
Same year that you
Yes.
guys moved?
Year.
5.5 months.
5.5 months.
So you came down, you bought a house.
Yep.
No jobs. Your mortgage company's not listening. They didn't
Wells
lie. They
Fargo
just
is not a
fucking-
subscriber, so I think
So-
we're fine.
Fantastic.
And then
Yeah.
you found something to do when you got down here, right? Did you have any?
No.
No,
we
I
had no.
still
we-
had-
I had unemployment from my father.
yeah.
Because I got laid
Oh,
off.
but that pissed him off. That he had those unemployment checks are coming.
No,
Filing
honestly,
for unemployment.
I mean, that was a conversation we had.
good.
It was sort of, just one of those things. It
That's
was
good.
just, it was easier to do it that way. It kind of gave us a little bit of a breath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He understood that. That's one of the things. I mean, my father, again, always looking out for family.
That's
Sure.
awesome.
He always had, and that was one of those things that he would do. So, we had no jobs, and November 30th comes, the morning of. I've got 2 text messages, 5 phone calls.
Oh, the phone just kept ringing. It
And I
was
was
really
like,
early, 6
So
a.m.
the night before,
I know,
our
because
youngest
the universe
decides-
really just fucks with you, right?
You can say fuck. You don't have to.
Yeah,
It's
the,
okay.
the universe
You don't have to
totally
lie.
fucks with us all the
You
time.
can see it
Sorry.
like she's started to say, she's like, oh my God, I'm saying the F word.
Yeah, that's
When
my
you're around
favorite.
Liz long enough, that's her favorite word.
That's
Are
my
you kidding?
favorite
is.
word.
but the night before, I had a conversation with him because our youngest decided to take my wife's medicine. My wife has rheumatoid arthritis. So we ended up at CHOA.
We were up in Atlanta at Children's
so we
Hospital.
were up in Atlanta, and we didn't get home until 1 a.m.
No, it was like 2:30.
Okay, a little later.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, it was late.
So I'm like,
6
Both
o'clock.
are
in the-
past my bedtime, okay?
Yeah, right, exactly.
the last time I talked to my dad
We're good. She's
was
good.
about 11:30 at night. Hey, we're good. I just wanted to let you know and give you an update. Love you. Talk to you later. And I wake up to these phone calls, these frantic phone calls. All the guys in my shop, they all had my cell phone. Dad, Chris, your dad. It was amazing to me. I mean, I think Liz will tell you the story. I laid in the foyer of our house, and I couldn't get up.
Mm.
It was there was a weight on my chest that whole morning. And it was, well, what are we going to do? We pulling the kids out, driving up there. She already had me so at the point, it moved so quickly. 60 minutes can move so quickly. And it was, okay, he's having a heart attack. Okay, they're there. Okay, I have a plane ticket. I'm gone this afternoon. To cancel the plane ticket. To, okay, when the kids get home, we've got to tell them. We load up the car. We drive to New Jersey. And I'm there December 1st, rolling up at 7:30 in the morning.
Because
we drove
passed
overnight.
away.
He passed away.
Yeah.
It was immediate. And it was hard. I mean, I can tell you, I spent the whole day just with this weight, and that weight on my chest probably didn't relieve. When did I tell you? Was it a good month, maybe 2, where finally it was like, I don't know. The only way I can describe it was someone was grabbing my heart and holding it. And then one day it just went, and I felt normal again. So it was hard. I mean, I lost my dad. I lost my best friend. It was a hard day.
Well, we're sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
It's, I lost my dad this year. And it's
not easy.
Mm-mm. So you lose your dad, your best friend, and all of a sudden, you got all of the, as you talked about, this heartache and trauma and just losing him. But then very quickly, I assume, all of a sudden the subject of this business is now right in the middle of your life. And it's like,
So
what do we do?
we landed at my parents' house, 7:30 that morning.
Back at the commune.
I went back.
We're calling it a compound, not a commune.
The compound. Sorry. Back at
This
the
is
compound.
Darren, guys.
It's
I mean,
that Jersey. It's not Utah. Come on
So-
now.
In the meantime, my mom went to the funeral home. So that was, the day before, on the 30th, when he passed.
Mhm.
And got taken advantage of. So December 1st was an ass-kicking day. So I went to the funeral home and took care of that business. I understood at that point
That shit gets me so fired up.
I got to tell you.
It got real ugly.
Yeah, you would want a video of that. You'd want to see me in that room because that was not, no. That wasn't happening. I wasn't having that shit, and that was the end of it. So I took care of that. That was fine. My guys at work already had taken the day. We gave them the day off. We all came back December 2nd. I went to work. So it's the universe pulling me back in.
Wow.
First my son's emergency C-section, right? And, and then not that it was enough to do that than to take my father. I always joke a little bit to Liz that it's like, somehow I'm meant to be great at this because the universe has taken too much from me for me not to be. But
I mean, it took your dream of being an audio engineer, took your father.
Yeah.
I mean, just there's no harder tractor pull, I guess, pulling you into this thing.
It's hard. It just kept pulling back. So I was back at work and I went to Target. Or actually, I didn't go to Target. I sent my sister to Target.
God bless Wendy. She went to
"Hey,
Target.
I have no work clothes.
No, because we were ready for the funeral.
Go buy me the cheapest jeans possible.
Yep.
But not Walmart cheap. Target cheap.
Well, we didn't have
in New Jersey, we didn't have a Walmart.
We didn't have Walmart then.
In Jersey.
It was 8 years ago. We didn't have a Walmart clothes.
It was all about the Target.
It was all about the Target. Yeah.
But they sell Dickie there, so don't they?
That's right.
Oh Jesus.
So anyway, yeah. And then he put his dad's t-shirts on. I mean, I think he.
I had my dad's t-shirts. I had my dad's sweatshirts.
Yep.
I mean, it was just I actually, the funny thing is, today, I wore one of his sweatshirts.
Today.
Really?
It was a sweatshirt my sister bought him from Australia when she went on a trip there. That was like, I don't know, we're probably rolling in on 30 years on that trip, by the way. But I still have that sweatshirt and I still wear it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So the funny thing is, some of the sweatshirts have gone by the wayside over the years. Just because they've gotten tattered and to the point where I've had to throw them out. But
there's a safety issue around the lathes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
You don't want to get caught. No.
Or they're just not warm anymore when they're just all holy.
But as soon as we took care of the funeral home incident, I was off to work. And I was like, you know what? We're going to have a conversation. This is what's going to happen. And lo and behold, I was back at work.
There you go.
Even though I lived in Georgia.
Yeah.
So you went back to work immediately, keep the business going, but you guys made a couple of things. First of all, when we talked earlier about this, you guys said that the business wasn't doing as well as it once was.
Correct.
And there was this whole discussion about what are we going to do strategically because your sister was involved, you were involved. So talk to us about what happened then with the structure of the business.
Well, first off, it was a conversation between Liz and I. Hey, do we move back to New Jersey? I mean, that was on the table.
Now you've had a little taste of Georgia.
That's and so the conversation was, do we go back?
Do we make it easy?
Do we make it easy?
And just drive the car that we've been driving all of these years that we left behind on the side of the road because it broke down, or do we trade it in and try something different?
Right. Make a hard right-hand turn.
Make that hard right-hand turn. And
right turn, Clyde.
Liz is like, I think we can do the shuffleboards. She said, but I can't do it in New Jersey. And I said, I agree with you. I said, I think if I come back to New Jersey and I step into the role of my father, it's going to be the same thing that we left. And it was never going to change because it is what it is and it becomes the monster that you feed. And we've actually been talking about this for the past couple of days.
Yeah.
It was an entity of its own, a living, breathing entity. I think these businesses, they become that. And it's like, you have to feed it. And how do I feed it? And how do I keep it going? And we didn't want that. We had to rip the Band-Aid off. My sister showed interest. She said, I'll take over the metal part.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I said, great. We talked to my mom about it because apparently, not apparently, but
it was hers.
It was hers.
Right. It was all hers.
Right?
Russell passing left everything to his wife. So, yeah.
We went through a bunch of stuff and, we offered my mom money for the business. Said, listen, we'll buy this part of the business from you. And funny that I buy something that I built all those years.
Right.
But, it is what it is. And my mom deserved it. She put in the time with my dad. So absolutely 100%. It was for her. And so we were able to buy the shuffleboard part of the business from my mom and move it down because it didn't matter where we were.
Right. Because you're not a retail operation. You guys
manufacture.
We sell all over the world.
Right.
And
So
my sister, on the other hand, was local,
And
regional,
tied. Yeah.
tied
her
to that
clients
area.
were tied to the New York metropolitan area.
So she took over the building and the metal part of the business. Then 4th of July seemed to be a big time of the year for us because it took me 7 months of flying back and forth between Atlanta and New Jersey to separate the business, to get everything
up and running.
Make sure my sister was on solid ground and sort of turn things around for her to a point where I felt comfortable leaving and saying, okay, we're good. We're going to make this break. So, we moved to Georgia initially at the end of June. Literally a year later, I have two 53-foot trailers loaded up,
with
coming
Venture,
down with Venture stuff. It was amazing what 12 months can bring you.
From breaking it down in Jersey, breaking down what you needed, loading up those trailers, getting it down here and getting your operation up and running again. How long did that take?
30 days.
Yeah, I was going to say 4 weeks. Yeah.
Actually, I can tell you the month we moved here, which is 4th of July, I had built one table that month.
In the old shop or the new shop?
In
the new shop.
The new shop.
Yeah, one table.
We loaded up, we unloaded, and I built one table. It was a 12-foot cushion. I can tell you.
You remember the first
I
table we
remember
built?
The exact table.
12-foot cushion.
It's like a memory, like
and that
an
was
elephant.
at the old location?
At our little shop.
Oh my goodness.
So at our little shop, and I had no machines running. I made it with a circular saw.
We had no we had no power because they're all big machines. So we had to have an electrician come in and actually run all of the power, run all the trunk lines, and then actually hardwire all of these machines in. So Chris, it was like a drill and a circular saw and
And you work with hardwood. How many saw blades did you go through just to make that one table?
Well, luckily enough, that was one of our laminated plywood tables.
Yeah,
so that was one I could tackle.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that first month we were here, I built one table.
So this is what I find really interesting about your story is that this is a business that had been running for almost 25 years.
Yep.
And then the shuffleboard part of this business, which you guys purchased, had been operating for almost 15.
Yes.
And yet here you guys are running it like a bona fide startup.
Yes.
Freaking everything on the line.
Oh, yeah.
Working without electricity.
Yeah.
It
was definitely a hard reset. And I think even more so than a startup where a startup starts at zero. We started from there was some red.
There was a little negative. Orders to fulfill,
there was
right?
a little negative.
Well, we had orders to fill.
Because you had your constant. You've had these vendors that everybody you work.
So at that point,
it had shrunk.
How many square feet did you go from and to?
So
it was almost equal. I would say
it was flexible. So
because the shop
bled over into the metal shop a little bit.
We did. We bled over. So we had 2,000 square feet of dedicated space for the shuffleboard manufacturing.
But there was lots of spots within
but there was
a
lot of spots we could pull out and store. So, we moved into 5,000 square feet. And Liz wanted to move to 9. We found a building that was 9,000. I'm like, that's too much space. I can't do that. I got to pack this in. I need the rent to be as low as possible.
Yeah, he was really smart in that, for sure.
I was like, I don't care if I have to stack this stuff to the ceiling now.
Trust me,
you did.
We did. Do you remember that,
Yeah,
Darren?
I do.
Holy cow.
Wow.
We used to have to leave the room to change our mind at the end. It was so full of crap.
God.
Yeah.
They would cycle at stations. It's like, okay, I'm done with this. Now we're going to bring the next station in and we're going to do it right here again.
But I want to go back to a point you were almost ready to make. I think Darren probably interrupted you because it's
usual.
Darren. No, but it sounds to me like you guys were almost under more pressure than a new business because you had margin issues and operational issues.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm paying my mom for a company.
Yeah,
so now I've made a financial obligation to my mother.
Right.
So
for 10 years, by the way.
For 10 years.
10 years.
The pressure my father felt.
Still paying it.
Think about the pressure my father felt trying to provide for a whole family. Me, my sister, his 6 grandkids.
The compound.
Right. At the compound. That's exactly
Think about that pressure that he had to run that business and for it to be successful enough where we could all collect a paycheck. So now I felt that pressure and I started to understand. I understand the pressure now. I get it.
Yeah.
This is Now I've got to pay my bills. I've got to pay my new rent. I've got to pay my new electric. But I've also got to pay my mother back because I've made her an agreement that I said, hey, I'm going to take care of you.
Right.
Because I was, at the end of the day, I took care of my mom.
You had employees too. And
they did not want to come down.
So
we
you
offered,
gave them the option.
we had 3.
We had 3 at the time. Yeah.
We had 3 at the time. And we offered to move all 3 of them. They were very much
entrenched in
their families and in their neighborhoods. Well, it was
Elizabeth.
It was Elizabeth, but close. Same kind of thing, I think.
The alliteration fell short.
But,
So they'd never been to Georgia is what you're telling me.
Probably
They've never been to Georgia.
They'd
probably never been
to
below the Mason-Dixon.
Never been outside of Jersey, actually.
A lot of them, no. Absolutely not.
They had, their lives were, and so honestly, Wendy was very gracious and
kept them all
on and put them in other positions.
That's great.
So the wood guys became metal guys.
That speaks volumes of the family, though, and what you built, what your dad built, and you guys became part of, and that he taught you, and to take care of everybody like that, and they wanted to see.
Huge.
That's a extended family.
Oh, he felt the pressure for sure. He always felt the pressure.
I can tell you that every person that worked for my father, he thought of as family.
Absolutely.
They provided for him, so he would provide for them. That's really what it came down to.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys, load up the wagons, Beverly Hills style.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and bring
really?
all this
The clam
shit down
totally.
here,
Yeah.
working out of this small little space.
Yep.
And now you're building these tables, these shuffleboard and billiard tables by hand with a freaking circular saw. So what happened next?
Did you scale back just the shuffleboard at that point?
We were just shuffleboards at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, when
Just
we came,
shuffleboard.
so June of 2012, we only were tracking shuffleboard tables at that point.
So I guess, we took a step back and I wanted to re-engineer some of the tables because they were built old-fashioned. Now, granted, listen, I learned from these guys who we brought in from American Shuffleboard, and they taught me the ins and outs and more than I'd ever want to know about wood.
And why.
Why
you did what you did and why it was done that way, yeah.
But I needed to modernize it a little bit, and the installation of the table was really lacking. So we went and we changed a few things and we redesigned things, and I spent the first 3 months really building these tables and working through some of these things and designing a couple new ones. And we had these things in our brain that wanted to sort of work through, and we had a lot of family down here that helped out a lot. And one of my uncles, he came in, he helped me put together the spray booth. He helped me.
Oh my gosh, he loaned us his truck for almost a whole year before we bought it from him.
He loaned us a truck for a whole year.
Yeah, because we didn't have a pickup truck. We had a minivan and a 4-door sedan. Like, you can't go to Home Depot with that.
You can't load up a lot of wood with that.
The luxurious life of an entrepreneur, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And these tables aren't small. I mean, for the shortest table that you guys manufacture is
Shuffleboard is 9
feet.
Yeah.
And the longest
22.
22 feet.
Yeah.
And for people that don't realize, this isn't the thing
That's
that
long.
you do on a cruise ship that you're pushing little discs across the floor. These
This
are
is the tabletop.
Tabletop. Well, and honestly, if you go on your Carnival cruise, we have 9
Are you on
shuffleboards.
Carnival Cruise?
Yeah, we're in
Holy
Carnival
shit.
Cruise Line.
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're gorgeous.
Message us if you want the boat names. I can't remember them off the top of my head,
that's
but yeah.
So I guess, you start doing this, you get the business going, but I think fundamentally you started thinking about the future of the company and going in a different direction than you had in the past, right?
Within the first 6 months,
Yeah.
we started talking and really sort of understanding what we wanted to do. We had always talked about it. Like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could do something a little more furniture-like, or if we could do something a little more like this. And one of the first tables we developed down here, the Savannah, was more furniture-like. It had a turned leg. It looked a little more like you would put in your living room, not in your basement.
Mm-hmm.
And really sort of bringing the level of that style up.
Mm-hmm.
We went to High Point, which is a big furniture show, and sort of understood what was happening there. And we said, hey, we have to be there. And we did that in April of 2012. That was, 7 months after we took over.
We walked it, right?
We walked it. And then in the
walked that show.
fall,
Yeah.
we brought a ping pong table. And the ping pong table, we talked about this ping pong table. And I said, I'm not making a green or blue ping pong table. I'm going to make the most beautiful ping pong table you'll ever see. So I made it out of solid walnut and solid maple. And we said, this is beautiful. We can make this into a dining table because people aren't going to want to spend that much money on a ping pong table. But if they'll sell it, they'll buy it if It can be a ping pong table
Or a conference table.
or a conference table
A gathering table.
or a gathering table.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, we sort of started a whole segment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
So
was-
if
it was
anybody
in-house
is
beautiful.
interested, it was, well, actually, if anybody goes back to the October 2019 House Beautiful, on the cover was all of these ping pong tables that are beautiful. Ours was not featured. But 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, Garden and Gun featured our walnut ping pong table in their January issue. So we really do, if anybody wants, we can say all the time that we're the biggest and we're the best. We really do feel very much like the authors of this segment because it does go all the way back to that.
And your ping pong tables are outdoors tables as well. aren't
We
they?
do
You have one.
some outdoor. Yeah, our Charlotte is really beautiful. We do a stone top with outdoor rated finishes, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's gorgeous, darling. You got to see it. It ought to be in pictures.
It is.
I got a podcast with this freaking knucklehead. Can you believe this?
Okay. Well, Chris stepped out to check the thermostat, Liz. Let's ask you some other questions about him. No. So you guys, you pack up, you're buying this truck from his uncle.
Well, actually, yeah. Really
yeah,
mine, but
borrowing it
yeah. We borrowed this
month.
truck, yeah.
Now, so I'll ask you this because you're on the operations side of it. You get down here, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're modifying what you're doing with the business. And when at that point, do you stay with all the same vendors? Do you realize that you need to make some changes there, even though there was
some things that we sort of didn't anticipate? I think when we started to think about expanding, the employee base is very interesting. It's very different in Georgia. The mass transit in and around metropolitan New York made it very easy. If I put an ad in the newspaper or just sort of stood at the top of the hill and whispered, "Job opening," we'd have 75 applicants.
Yeah.
In Georgia, I'm throwing diamonds at people and I get 3.
Nah.
Meh, meh.
Whatever.
So very different employee pool
Sure.
down here. So that was something that we learned a couple of years in. I think what else changed? We found that some of our vendors just didn't translate, but we did keep our biggest vendors, certainly from New Jersey. And then, of course, you have to decide and sort of digest the fact that now instead of like their truck delivering it, you have to put it on, a common carrier, and there's a cost involved in that.
Yep.
So that all factors in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I get one of the things that I've talked to a lot of second generation or third generation business owners. And one of the things that I love about your story is that you guys bought this business, you moved it, you essentially rebooted and started over, changed the direction, started making these pieces of art, which we'll talk a little bit more about what you guys do today. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I've heard so many people really struggle with the fact that when you'll tell them about your business, like, oh, you're second generation, must have been easy for you. Because you just had a business just given to you, right?
Fast forwarded, right? It's already there.
And I
That
want to
assumption gets made quite often.
Just
yes.
I know it does,
Hold
and
the yoke right here and just keep it steering this direction, and you'll be fine.
I've seen this perception so many times. I've talked to so many second and third generation owners, and you've got this platform. You're talking to our audience. I want you to tell people what it's really like.
Oh, it's hard. I mean, at the end of the day, depending on what you take over, whether it's a floundering business, sort of like what we did, or a successful business, when you take over, not only are you dealing with where you're going to take the business, you're dealing with vendors who think that you're still 12 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And the respect.
I remember you when you was this years old.
That's exactly right.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So,
or the boss's son.
the boss's son.
Right.
And you don't have the respect of these people, and you have to earn it. And it's not just by title. It's not because, he's retired and I own the business. It's a respect thing that you have to go through and earn, just like your father or mother did the years before.
It's a rite of passage.
It is a rite of passage.
I think
But
so.
you have to unfairly work a little harder for that respect.
I think you do, because you have a stereotype against you. You have a preconceived notion that you are this little brat of a kid that used to run around the the hallway and make a mess that someone held to clean up. And the reality is you had your own demons to deal with while you watched mom or dad run the business.
Sure.
You had to go against that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I can tell you so many people who thought they could take advantage of me. And there was a lot of teeth being shown the first year.
Oh, yeah.
That I had to deal with some of the vendors and some of the customers and thinking that they could push me around. And, well, you're just this kid. And then I'd remind them.
I'm from Jersey.
I'm from Jersey.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And
your ass, man.
And The Sopranos isn't so far off.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I love it.
Or I'm going to sick Liz on you, so don't let that happen.
Having a pit bull like Liz in my corner absolutely is a positive because she does not let anybody get away with anything.
I'm sure you're like, Liz, I'm going in the shop. I'm just working. You deal with it. And it's like, oh, man.
So I want to talk a little bit about the strategic direction of your business.
That's a good thing.
So you guys made this decision. You moved the business down here. It's a really dicey time. You've got a big obligation to buy this business from your mother. And you decide to go all in at a time when the economy still is not good. I mean, we're 2012. Go back and look at your 401k statement from 2012. Like, we weren't out of the woods yet.
No one's buying high end.
No.
I'm looking at my beer glass right now.
Yeah, that's where your 401k was in 2012.
You're exactly right. We were at a point in time when discretionary income was still very tight.
Yes.
And you guys went all in on these premium, handmade, beautiful. I mean, they're works of art. The tables that you guys build are just beautiful works of art. You guys went all in on that. And
I would like to say we didn't know any better. And we were a little naive.
Oh, I think you knew better.
But I think we did know better. I think Liz and I saw a huge opportunity in this market that we now drive, I think, forward and a lot of people follow, where we're like, you've got to get the billiard game room out of the basement.
It's got to be. It can't be.
I grew up in a very big family.
Yeah.
So, 90 to 100 people at Christmas dinner was not unusual.
Holy shit.
Oh,
How
no.
many?
I had
God
26
bless.
first cousins.
God bless Grammy Rose used to start cooking like 7 days legit. By Christmas dinner, it was all left over because she had, like 30 and 40 pounds of mashed potatoes.
Oh, yeah. So, but where did the kids go on Christmas Day?
Everybody was
when you're eating
the basement.
The basement.
Kids went to the basement.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That drove me crazy. And it was like, why do we have to be down in this unfinished basement and not make what we really wanted to do? And Liz has come up with this tagline, which is fantastic, is reimagine the billiard room, billiard table, the game room, really, to the point where it's part of your daily being.
Mm-hmm.
Our philosophy has been such that we always loved gathering. I mean, coming from a big Irish family, that's what we did. We gathered for everything.
Whether they liked each other or
Catholics
not.
don't know how to use a condom as a Catholic, do they?
Blessedly, he wasn't Catholic. Imagine if they were.
But really, at the end of the day, it was all about gathering, coming together, and enjoying each other's company. And we built these games and sort of, we did go all in. And we said, but we wanted to make it part of the house. It wasn't where the kids got sent because
they were loud.
Want to be bothered, or they were loud, or they were annoying. We want everybody to be loud.
Sure.
Right.
Well,
and it was an interesting time to the dynamics of, if you look at the American house, if you go back and do 2020 hindsight,
the tiny
square
home nation.
Well, that was after that a little bit, but it was expanding at that point. You went from 1,700 to 2,000, and 2,000 to 2,500, and 2,500 to 3,000 square foot houses, and people were also less and less formal in their lifestyles.
Well, dining rooms are a thing of the past.
That's exactly right. So we have
they
these.
really are.
We have these.
saw that
Why not
opportunity.
Put something that was there.
That's exactly right. We have these lovely homes here in the South that have keeping or big breakfast rooms. And in my house, my breakfast room and my dining room are the same damn size.
Right.
Why the hell do I need 2 tables that nobody's going to sit at and have dinner with me anyway?
Or a formal living room that don't sit on that. You might.
Right. That's exactly right. Right.
You got the carpet runners all over the place. It's like, what
Which is why the first thing that we really came out with when we decided to go headstrong into this was that ping pong table that could convert.
Table.
Yeah.
Because it was huge that you could literally just take off this net that expanded and put it away and set it up for a dining table. And it worked out beautifully.
Were these ideas that you had back when you were working with
Yes.
your dad,
Yes.
but he just didn't.
He just couldn't get there.
He couldn't get there. He
He just
couldn't
couldn't
see
get
it.
there.
You know, old dog, new tricks.
So that was
whole
part of
thing.
the-
It does work. I mean,
Well,
Part of the
and-
frustration on your part. I mean,
and-
how hard did you push with that? Did you even say, "Can I?" do
Well,
a
hard
test
enough that he
market?"
moved to Georgia.
yeah. I mean, there you go.
I mean, at
And then
some
there's that.
point, and then,
Right.
you know, at some point, you're, you know, sort of beating a dead horse. I think Chris had some pretty good ideas for a long time. And I think had 2008 not happened, I
Mhm.
think Russ may have been more willing. He was holding on for dear life.
Well, that was scary as hell for everybody.
Yeah. I mean,
Especially for
imagine.
business
Dear
owners.
life
Yeah.
because the business was also starting
Absolutely.
to tank.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Is that
he
why?
started the business from zero and built it to a multi-million-dollar company
Yeah.
and had lost 50%.
Holy shit!
By 2011, he had
And we
lost
talked
50%.
about the stress earlier.
Yeah.
He wanted to provide for his family.
Sure.
He wanted bills to pay. He had me to pay. He had 6 grandkids he wanted to look out for.
It was
That-
an incredible burden.
It was and then
Yeah.
sometimes, and this is one of the things hopefully I don't fall into, and that I learned from him was that I don't get stuck, that I don't hold on so
Sure.
tight for dear life, that I'm willing to take the chance and
Right.
leap. We always say we leap and the net will appear. Truly, we've been blessed to the fact that
Oh, we've
the
leapt
net,
and leapt and leapt again.
we've
Well, you-
leapt. Yeah.
You've said that over earlier in the conversation. You're like all day long, or somewhere you're always talking about a new thing, something else. How
Moving
do we
forward.
diversify? How do we
Yep.
move forward continuously and not stagnate and get stifled?
It's easy
into
to
something?
because you get the orders coming in,
Sure.
right? And you've got this design and this table's really
Well, you-
knocked off.
Really
and it's-
popular,
Yeah,
and
right?
I'm building
Right.
4 or 5 of
Sure.
them a week, and it's
Yeah.
like I don't have to do anything else. I've got what I need.
You have shuffleboard, you have foosball, you have billiards now. You brought the billiards back. You have cornhole. What am I? And your
Ping pong.
ping
You
pong.
forgot the ping pong, yeah.
and your
we do
your foosball tables are
Yes.
amazing because I saw that one when you were putting it together and I'm like, first of all, it's just gorgeous. I mean, the thing is, who wouldn't want this in their house? But then you bank the corners so the ball never gets stuck in the corner.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's more European
It's
style.
awesome.
Yeah, they bank the
So-
corners in France. Yeah.
And one step further, we've actually, since you've seen that, we've actually tapered the top edge so the center is higher than the lower.
We have
So
like a
now there-
2
It
degree.
will never.
Yeah, we have like a 2-degree
A mini crown
pitch.
on it.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
that's
awesome.
exactly right. Yeah.
Jake's
That's
like,
cool.
I got to come up with it.
He's like,
I'm taking you to
No.
their shop one day. It is
So-
awesome.
True. This is very, very true. I have always wanted a shuffleboard table in my house. And I will get one eventually. And when I get one, it's going to be one of yours.
We
Because
appreciate that.
I love that they're handmade. I love that they're local. You know, not only have you guys been visionary and built these works of art, but you're not farming it out to China
We
and
are
having
not.
them shipped over. I mean, you're using American hands to do
Not
this.
even
So
Texas.
Not even- Thanks, Darren.
Sorry.
oh boy, another
Better than
wave
anything
of
you can
jokes
get out
came
of
into my head.
Texas.
Yeah. But I think what you guys have done is fantastic. And, you know, you guys started this, you know, experience working together early on back in the, you know, what was it? 90.
Late 90s, yeah.
Late night. Well, I actually worked for Russ out of college in between jobs. I built his first 10 coin-op pool tables.
Yes,
So-
she did.
So she,
Nobody
you guys-
believes that either, by the way. And I think I have a picture too
We
of
have-
her sitting
it-
in the
actually
table.
table.
physically built them.
Physically built them. Yeah.
She helped
Yeah.
get that whole line up and running.
I was the only one that fit in the tables.
and then and then she put them on the balance sheet.
That's it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And so what I find interesting though is that you guys had this dynamic working together, but then after you guys, you know, took over the business yourselves and moved it down here, I imagine that dynamic between you guys changed because now Russ is not in the picture.
Yeah, it's a different shift, right?
You know, it did change. I would almost say it was a little more freeing because obviously I didn't have to run everything through him. Everything we did before had to run through him. Now it was a little strange because everyone looked to me. What do you want to do?
Right.
Yeah.
Where's it going?
Well, and you're also walking through, I think for me, those first months and even probably that first year is so fuzzy because of the grief that we were going through. So when you say like, did you know?
Right.
And Chris jokes, I don't know that some of those first initial decisions that we made were done with clear heads. I think we did what felt like,
We allowed the universe to sort of run our.
yeah.
It's
you
funny
just
how
sort
those
of-
things just
Right.
can
Yeah.
take time. I mean,
Persevere.
you know, I just, you know, had my first Veterans Day without my dad. You know, my dad fought in Vietnam and I started a, this tradition where I'd call him every year
Mm-hmm.
and thank him for what he did, because I didn't really appreciate his sacrifice until I became an adult and learned about the war.
Started to understand a little more.
He was in recon. He was a tunnel rat, so they had the worst mortality rate in the war.
Gosh, yeah.
Sure.
And he did that. He got shot and stabbed and came home. I didn't really appreciate that as a kid, but as an adult, I did. Called him every year, and after I lost him, I felt like the grief was over.
Yeah.
Oh no! And then it sneaks right the hell up on you and bites you in the
Veterans
ass.
Day, it's like,
It's hard because I can tell you that first year, first off, having to call all of the vendors
Oh, that was, and then
and explain to them, and then to field phone calls for the next
6 months, more than that,
longer than that.
a year, 18 months.
Hey,
I mean,
is Russ there? And then have to go through it
all over again.
Oh.
So
Every
you're
time you
reliving it over. I mean, Christopher, I think you fielded probably 80% of the phone calls that first little bit. Wendy did
so
some.
yeah, I mean it's hard.
Yeah.
You think you're over it, and then there are always little times.
just
I
bang.
mean,
Yeah.
we talk about it, and it's sort of accepting that he's here and understanding. I always joke to my guys. That's like, listen, I know that when I'm here at 2 a.m. and I'm working on a table because I've got to get something done, that he's here with me because he hides something on me every single time.
Every single time.
Every single time.
Yep.
It's not that I'm forgetful and I
Or
might
doesn't
put
put
stuff
things,
down.
or that he never puts things where they belong.
No, he hits. And I was telling this story to one of my guys.
In the
And
old shop,
I'm
Darren.
telling
In
you.
the
In
old
the old
shop.
shop.
Uh-huh.
There was a piece of wood that fell over the tape measure and hid the tape measure. And I said, see, I told you.
And it gave everybody the heebie-jeebies.
And they were
It
like,
was, yeah.
no, yeah, that's crazy. But listen, you always remember and feel. I think I've been lucky enough to be open to the fact that I know he's always around.
Sure.
And
It's good.
over the past 8 years, it has gotten less. I would say the first 2 years was really solid, where it was like
He was here a lot.
He was here a lot.
He's playing more golf now.
He's probably playing.
God willing.
He's got his friends up there.
Yeah.
Saul, one of our friends that helped me learn the business, our other friend Leo, and stuff like that. And I think there's a group of them up there, and he's got his brothers and sisters up there now too. So it's pretty cool. He's got a full house up there too now.
I think we need a little less hand holding too now.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think he
He was there
understands.
just guiding you.
I think
so.
Truly, honestly, the first 12 months, I guarantee you, he was steering the ship a little bit. Like he was
Oh, good weather.
putting us
It was
in.
flip-flop weather that whole first year we were here. We could leave stuff outside and it would still be there in the morning and not wet. Like just because we were, we would
Because we had to
forget.
put stuff outside. Because
Yeah.
Stuff outside.
I
we didn't have
decided
enough
to
room.
rent a garage, not a shop.
Yeah.
So it's funny, man. I believe, I'm Christian and I believe that there's an afterlife, but I also think that, our loved ones can stick around. I've seen it myself in my own experiences, and I got to imagine, being free of this world. I bet all along he wanted to see if your vision was the right thing.
The right thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
I think so.
I think,
and then just wanted to fuck with you because you were right.
Yeah.
He's like, I
because it's-
should have listened to him. This would have
Yeah.
saved a lot of
Fucking
money.
bastard was right the whole
the whole
time.
time.
I think, but that was he had that
I'm
kind of sense
telling you,
of
he
humor.
does it. And every once in a while, I catch him in the corner of my eye, and I'm like, yeah, not today, buddy.
You son of a bitch. Get out of here.
Yeah.
It's mine now.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you, there were many late nights at the shop when we first started, and I'll refer to the 2 in the mornings and the 10 at nights, and there are times where I yelled at him, like I had that freeing ability to just say, "I'm still mad at your ass. Get out." It's like because I knew he was there, and you could just feel it, and it was a guiding light for us. I think that first 12 months, where Liz says we were a little cloudy in our judgment and what we were doing,
Yeah.
it was the right decisions because I think all along I think he was there for us, and you can believe what you want to believe in spirit and all of this stuff, but he was there with us. He taught us everything we needed to know.
Yeah.
Even if we were on cruise control, it was there.
Yeah.
And we understood it. And I thank God that I was able to listen to him when I was here, when he was here, and he was teaching me, because so many people have the opportunity nowadays where their parents are willing to teach them something, but they have to be willing to accept the teachings.
sure.
And it's, yeah.
Well, and the other thing too is a lot of times it's like Karate Kid. You're being taught these lessons, but you don't realize how smart you become until later.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, you motherfucker.
That's,
Yeah.
and I've had
You
those
knew what
moments.
you were doing.
Absolutely.
And there were a lot of moments where I thought he was, you son of a bitch, what are you doing? But like you go and you go, yeah, you were right the whole time. Like he's saying,
Yeah.
God damn it, you were right. I'm saying that to him too, because there are times where it's like, now I understand why he made decisions that he made that I was mad at him about. Like, you can't make that decision.
But there was a bigger picture that we couldn't see until we were walking in his shoes.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It's hard. You
had an up and down business there, so it was failing, but he taught you enough that you had enough basis of knowledge and understanding to right the ship and bring it back up.
Well, and I think at his core, he was always a couple of things. Number one, if he handed you a check, it was as good as Benjamin's. That's what he taught us. Never write a bad check. Never tell anybody you're going to pay them if you're not.
Don't float it.
Yeah, that, and don't fuck with people's money.
Right.
The people that work for you, don't fuck with their money. So in that, and then always, and then be truthful. That was the be transparent. And I think that's where we really.
Sometimes though we're so truthful that people are actually put off.
Oh my
by
gosh,
it.
we've actually lost business by being transparent in some. I think people.
I like it.
I think the authenticity really scares the heck out of people.
I've done
sometimes.
business with you guys, and you were flat out honest, and I'm like, perfect. I appreciate it.
Sometimes it's something you don't want to hear, but you have to hear it, and we say it to you, and you could take it for what it is, or you can move on. And there have been people who've moved on.
If you don't understand the way you guys say something, then they're totally deaf and don't get it, because you're really straightforward. There's no beat around the bush. It's
and that's hard. That's been hard for us too, because sometimes people want the art of the deal, and I don't. I've gotten better at it. I've gotten better at it.
And then you guys also, you coming from Jersey, you're dropping Jersey on Georgia people that want to, know about your mom
Do
and
you
them.
hear that? There's no.
Oh,
Jersey
let me tell you
accent.
something. The truck drivers, when they first came here,
Oh my
they're like, no,
gosh.
that lady, I don't like her.
Oh no, I made the truck drivers blush. Yeah. Oh yeah. Listen, those guys would come
Why
in.
is she so mad all the time?
Because you bring shit that's
they're-
broken. Like,
So they're talking to me and they're saying something. I was like, you mean my wife in the office?
Oh, my
and they were
God.
like, what?
Oh shit, that's your wife? Oh,
I feel
can you
so
sign
sorry
here? I
for
gotta get
you.
the hell out of here.
yeah.
Just load
Thanks,
up and get
guys.
out.
So let me ask you a question about the marriage dynamic. Obviously now the family business is with, husband and wife.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, we talked earlier about, in relationships, we support each other, we love each other, but then in work, we have to hold each other accountable. How do you guys balance that between the two of you?
It's hard. I think having someone walking hand in hand with you on the same path is easier. We both have the same objective, to be successful. Our vision has always been sort of the same, I would say. We diverge very little, but I think we flipped houses in New Jersey, and we always had vision. I knew where her strengths were. She knew where my strengths were. We always played off of them. We call it the 80-20 rule. So
Marriage is not 50-50, and neither is a partnership in business. 80-20 is a good day.
so if
80% of the time, Liz is right, and
20%.
No,
I'm not.
110% of the time. That's exactly right.
Well played, sir.
Yeah. So, no, it's 80-20. So when you understand that you're not pulling half, and there are good days and bad days, so it's an ebb and flow.
So there are days where she has RA. So there are days where she's not great. And it's like, baby, just go home and rest. I got it covered here. And I'll go home and I'll cook dinner and I'll make sure things are good. There are days where I am at the end of a bender, not from beer, unfortunately, but from work. And
where everything goes wrong.
Where
When you
everything
have
goes
those
wrong.
orders that roll downhill and
yeah.
it just goes to a piling.
it's like quicksand where you
Yeah.
can't dig yourself out.
Yeah.
And she's got it covered. I can come home and I know dinner's in the microwave because everyone's asleep and all the kids
Right.
are set, and lunch is made for the kids for school the next day, that kind of stuff. So understanding to pick each other up is more productive than pushing each other down.
And pointing fingers. Yeah.
So that's really sort of how
That's
we do
hard
it.
enough just in marriage, period.
Yeah.
It is.
Much less with
And
business. So I think
yeah.
having a good marriage to start with is probably
Makes
a
it
pretty good
successful.
ingredient.
Absolutely.
That's a core. I mean,
Yeah.
our respect is really the core value that we have for each other. And
But you said something really, I think, profound, and I think that is that you guys share the same vision. That I wonder in business between husband and wife, when you got spouses in business together, I just wonder if you can ever truly be successful if you don't have the same vision.
I don't think you can. I think the positive for us is that we have each other's backs. because we have the same vision. We know where we want to go, and we trust each other to the point where I know that she's not just blowing smoke up my ass. Like, she's just trying to tell me that, yeah, that table looks great. I love that new design. Awesome. And really, she's going, oh my God.
What the hell did you make?
That only happened the first weekend. At the Jersey Shore was the only time she ever blew smoke up his ass.
Well, I got him to marry me, didn't I?
She did. She moved in with me 6 months later. So there you go.
Yep, Darren. Yep.
That's good though, and it is regardless of whether you guys are married. Any good business relationship, if you have a partner or partners, is based on trust.
It's based on, well, it's
covering each other's back.
Absolutely. And you have to listen, the vision might be slightly different, but goals, I think, have to be set. And on every level of business, whether you are small and you're doing, there's 2 zeros behind what you do or 3 zeros, or you have 7 zeros behind what you do. I think you have to have goals, and you have to sit and you have to flesh those out.
Right.
And, we had a 5-year goal. We sat down and we reached it in about 2.5 years. And then
we were like, what do we do?
Holy shit, the next 36 months.
Seriously. We were
just move a decimal point and go for it again.
Well, but the goals change though. It's like, okay, now what's the next thing was a building. So we got to that successful, like, okay, we have employees, like we can make rent and we can,
now we have to buy tools for every station.
That was the building. That was let me just, holy crow. Every time he comes in, it's $2,000. But
I think that's a brilliant point though, because
I think you have to have the conversation.
You do. And it's funny, my wife and I are in our first year of business together. And when we sat down and we made some decisions and, we talked about the first year, we got really in lockstep about where we wanted to be. Yeah. And I wrote the goals down, and I actually felt like a douchebag writing them down because I'm like,
no, this is what people...
Oh my God, this is crazy. But we're actually on track.
Yeah,
I can't freaking believe it. It's like all of a sudden things have blown up and we're on track to get there. And it's like, some days I sit there and wonder, it's like, is it really that we just took the time to write it down and then figure out what it's going to do?
Well, the thing is...
Is it really that freaking simple?
Really
Why doesn't everybody do this?
It really... Yeah. Well, and if you look at some of the big guys, if you read some of those books about how they got there, some of it was making sure that they had a clear vision. You don't know where you're going for dinner if you don't know that you're going around you can't get there. Unless you know where you're going, you can't get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we can sit here and say we want to be successful. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
What does success look like for you and your wife, and what does it look like for us?
Totally different.
It's different.
Right.
And it should be.
Yeah.
Right.
The hard part is changing the goals and moving them. Because once you get the goals, and you're like, you can become complacent.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the negatives of my father. I think he saw the goal, he achieved the goal.
Oh, well, and he more than
I think he ever imagined.
Right.
And he was sitting on top of the world, and he didn't say, where do I go from here?
Right.
He was like, I'm good.
So did your sister experience the same thing with the metal shops?
Unfortunately not. We ended up having to close that. Probably it was a year.
March of 20. No, more than that now, babe.
More than that now?
March of 2015.
Wow. So longer than I can even remember.
Yeah.
She didn't. She had some other struggles. Now, the metal business being what it is very different than what we were able to reinvent ourselves. So we were able to design new tables. We were able to push into new markets and categories. When you're a job shop, and you're used to people bringing you stuff to build, you're not driving your market and you're not driving the way that it goes. You're sort of more reactive than you are proactive.
had she been able to hang in there, but it really was, it was so hard. The overhead was oppressive. I
think the hard part for her too was she walked into that building every day. We didn't.
So that was the best thing.
I think the best thing for us was to move down here because it gave us a fresh start. It really was pulling the Band-Aid off. We could have went back up there.
Sure.
Liz and I could be divorced right now. That's the reality of it, because the stress going there and really sitting in the same shoes that my father was.
Sitting in the office at the desk in the chair.
That's
a lot. That's a lot of pressure.
And that's what my sister, I think, dealt with. And I think the hard part was for her was that she had to go and relive that every day.
Right.
And understand that he was there every day. And she didn't want to let him down at the end of the day. I know she didn't. Mm-hmm. But things happened and we helped her through that. And and kind of they're on a better plane now, her and her husband, and sort of moving upward and forward. I don't think her position ever was truly meant to be there. I think it was a thing that she needed to go through for her grief.
Right.
When my father passed as suddenly as he did.
So now you've got this business, second generation. You have 3 kids.
Yeah.
Is there a third?
Are any of them, are you dragging any, are
don't know. So
going
any
back,
of them coming to the shop?
So this
now
is an
with you?
interesting conversation because of where Chris came from.
Going back to the beginning, what did I say to you? I said, I'm so glad he pulled me out of bed every Saturday.
Right.
I didn't do that with my kids. And I allowed them to be free and to make their own sort of way.
And he didn't recognize that until probably the last couple of years.
Now, do any of them show interest at all?
No, listen.
They like the cash.
They like the cash.
So funny how that works, huh?
So my 14-year-old son is finally to one thing I never recognized with
Should
my
have bought him
father.
a pocket knife, right? And then
Well,
would
he's a
get
Boy Scout, so he's got plenty of pocket knives.
Yeah.
One thing I never recognized with my father, the stress and fear, I'll use the word fear, it was when I was out on that shop floor.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So every day I dealt with machines that could mangle me to a point of
Oh
disfigurement.
yeah, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Shitless.
Okay,
So by the
so
time-
we had
yeah.
metal shears that cut my finger off at the touch of a button. I took too many people to the hospital with bent fingers back for a metal break. Stuff like that. So just regular cuts, like stitches and stuff like that. So I never understood how and I even said this to Liz. I said, I don't know. How did he deal with the fact that I was out in that shop?
Like
and
setting
he
machines
knew
up.
that any moment he would hear a noise and it could very well be my finger taken off. I was scared shitless when my kids started helping me in the shop, and they all started right away. Now, all of my kids had spent time in my father's shop, and they spent time in the office, and they would put together the weights, the weights that you play with the table.
Our oldest daughter was amazing. I think she's going to be like a corporate lawyer. When she was about 4,
So she worked her grandfather hard.
she negotiated. She negotiated for I think he was doing like 50 cents a set or something. And she was like, Grandpa, 50 cents isn't
I'm
really
going to write
a lot.
a number down on this piece of paper that I'd like you to look at.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what
that was
happened.
kind of what it
So
was
she
like.
was assembling the weights.
She would put the weights, right. There's a
and he
plastic
was-
cap.
and he was paying her 50
and
cents
he was
a
paying
weight.
A set.
or a set.
set
So
of
a set of
eight.
8.
She's
He
like,
would
there's
pay
a
her-
lot of work involved in this.
There's a
Grandpa.
lot-
I think I deserve $1.
Yep. And you know that she won that
Love this girl.
negotiation. Yeah. Oh no, she's fierce when it comes to her money, man.
Because
So they've
she was
always
just-
had that work ethic. They've always understood what I do and what Liz does and how hard we work. Our son, we always call him middle management because, he'd work in the shop literally for 5 minutes and be like, I got to go take a break. And even at 14, he still does the same thing. Now, the nice part is he will go on installs with me now, which I think he's starting to understand is a good thing because people love.
Oh my God, he's also a handsome kid.
They love the young kids. And I
Yeah.
found this too when I used to go on installs and when I was younger, they'd hand you $100 and be like, thanks for your help. I think it's so awesome that your son is helping out. Like they wouldn't hand me the money. They'd hand him the money.
Yeah, no.
I already gave you the money, pal.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
What it was is, here's $100, send your kid back later.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
Lonely
but
housewife
I
in
think
Jersey.
he's starting to understand that he wants to work a little bit more. Will there be a third generation? I'm going to probably say no.
You're not putting the pressure on him
I'm
at
not
all.
putting the pressure on. There was so much pressure on me that I didn't want to do that to them. I didn't want them to feel pigeonholed. And I felt pigeonholed growing up, which is one of the reasons why I left to be an audio engineer, because I felt like I had to follow that through.
How many rock stars did you actually ever meet when you were
Okay,
an audio
so
engineer?
There's several.
audio
Several?
or setting up their game tables because there's that number too.
Well, there's a couple
Yeah.
now.
Touche.
So that's
Yeah.
the whole reason you said you wanted to go into the audio engineering.
Right, was the rock star.
To hang out with the rock
hang
stars.
out with rock
Yeah, I think-
stars. So
I
how
think-
many
I got
did
to
you
work on
actually-
some really cool projects.
In some really cool.
In some really cool
Places.
historic studios in New
Yeah.
York City.
Yeah.
CBGBs?
I've been to CBGBs, but I didn't
That's
work
good
at
to know.
CBGBs. I got to work. One of the coolest things is I worked in a studio in Harlem for Ornette Coleman. It was his studio, and if you know who Ornette Coleman
Yes,
is,
I do.
he's like the godfather of avant-garde jazz.
Sure.
So I grew up
Yeah.
listening
Yeah.
to him. I was a friend of mine gave me his album at like 16 or 17 that worked at a record store. And so to be able to work with him and to watch him work was
You actually
Oh,
saw
yeah.
Ornette
Coleman
and you were with
play.
him.
I used to hang out with Ornette Coleman.
Oh, that's freaking
He used to
sweet,
piss
dude.
everybody off in the jazz industry because he's like, well, you know what? I'll just play this instrument for the hell of it, and here's how I'm going to play it. And they're like, you can't do that. And he goes, well, watch me.
Watch me, and I do
And he
it.
did.
Boom, and he do
Yeah,
it.
The man,
that's exactly right.
Two instruments at one
to
time.
watch him work in the studio and to explain to another musician how to play music, and just to understand that theory and that spirituality behind it, was my. I can tell you, I'm the man today because I took that break and did audio engineering, because I
Right.
learned so much about myself and just other things that my father couldn't teach me. And that was one of the reasons why I don't want to pigeonhole my kids into just having me be their teacher. One of the hardest things is when you grow up, you don't want just one teacher. I mean, it obviously doesn't work. Look at high school. You got many teachers. They teach in different ways.
Right.
So it was hard for me. I was really, I don't want to say stunted to an extent with just learning from my dad, but I really only had one perspective in life. And that base was on my dad. So when I branched out to audio engineering, I got to meet so many different people. Ornette, thankfully, being one of them.
You got to say, you didn't have to say, what if I had done this? And I think a lot of people get stuck. They do certain things because it's the way they
It's
believe
easier.
it. It's easier, or the way they
Sure.
think everybody else sees them. And it's like, I'm doing this because this is what's expected of me. And then you turn around and you go, well, what if I had done this? And it's like, don't say what if. Pack your shit and go do it.
Well, and you talk
And you
about
did it.
second generation and third generation. It's the path of least resistance.
Mhm.
So I already have the successful business in front of me that my dad or my mom is going to hand over to me.
Right.
So I might as well just do it. My thought is, you shouldn't do that if that was the only job you've ever had.
Right.
Really, you need a different perspective. In order for you to truly take over and be successful, I do think that you need a different perspective, because it's important that you see things from a different point of view than just what you were. I mean, I was 12 years old when I started. So I was tunnel vision when it came to what my dad, it was be all end all. If my dad said this,
Sure.
that's what it was. And it was the word of God. And I, listen, it is that. It was written in stone, but the reality is it's not. There are so many different ways to skin a cat. It's ridiculous.
So as you guys look back at your journey since you took over the business, what's your proudest moment or your proudest achievement?
You want to take that first?
Yeah, because you still don't have an answer.
That's right. That's sort of like when you wait to the end to order something off the menu.
Yeah, did you?
You're living on the edge. I love it, man.
So in our pre-interview, you guys sort of posed this to us, and it came to me pretty quick, and I'm going to be real interested to see what that guy over there says.
Let me
But
break out another beer and maybe I can get to
I
it.
think so. I
This
think
one's
so.
a good one.
So proudest moments for me are not like the, and I don't want to sound arrogant at all. It's not the big stuff. It's the little stuff. It's recently, I think recently I needed to go pick something up at the office, and it was after hours. So it's quiet and dark, and I walked in, and it absolutely overwhelmed me when I walked into the shop. I was like, holy shit, this is ours. Like, we're really doing this. So it's, I mean, I think those are the moments for me, looking when something, this culmination of, when things really come together and you can see, and it's
Just to prove I can do it.
Oh, there you go. That's a proper head. Good job.
there you go. But those moments that are fleeting. So when all paths sort of cross and diverge just for that single moment, I think if everybody has now been listening, Chris and I are sort of very spiritual and sort of more open to the universe. When you just are sort of allowing yourself to feel that moment in time, and you're like,
Sure.
I feel so good about pride is, I don't know, maybe not the right word, but I am certainly proud of this guy every day for what he does. But as far as our business, I think it's just, I feel good about like sort of those moments.
I've got a sign in
Get
our house that says, one day you'll look back and realize the small things were the big things.
Yeah. And
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
I
true.
agree 100%. So I'm going to be real interested to hear his, I'm going to turn to you.
We'll let him pause really quick, because I can piggyback on what you just said, and I will sit down after everybody leaves here.
You're
And
like,
it's like, oh shit.
yeah. It's amazing.
To be able to submerge yourself into that and sort of take it in is huge. Because you have to take those moments in. Those are the moments that you live for.
Right.
And that's like, I'm good. And that's what keeps you going.
And
that's what gets you up
sometimes
the
they
next
are
day.
overwhelming. They just, and it's these really, and I think it's in those quiet, right? What do we say, Christopher, in the downbeats? Is that right? That's where you really make music.
Right.
And that's when it's quiet. I think you can really understand. And I think that's where the biggest gains come from. I think you can realize where things are coming,
Especially because you've been doing it for decades. You've been in this for a couple decades now. I mean, you're two decades in
I'm 17
almost?
years,
17 years,
not quite
almost
2 decades. Yeah.
Chris is 3.
Yeah, he's 30.
When I start telling people how long I've been doing
32
this, and I
years.
start the number keeps going up, I'm like,
Holy crap!
how does that happen?
Yeah, 32 years, and they double take, and they're like, "But you look 25." That's the
Like, you don't even want to know. It's crazy.
yeah.
But-
well, later on, there's going to be a lot of women that are going to be jealous of Liz bringing you around all the time.
I don't know
He
about
does.
that.
He has a trophy husband T-shirt.
I do.
He wears it proudly.
I'm just there to look good. Really, I told you at the end of the day, she does all the talking. I'm just here to look good.
You know, my wife's never gotten me one of those T-shirts.
No, she has it. She just
Bullshit.
hasn't brought it out yet.
She hasn't found one yet. She found the shirt, hadn't found a husband yet.
So now it's time for Chris to answer the question that Liz is dying to.
So my proudest moments. Interesting. I don't want to piggyback off what Liz says, but really sort of when there's something in my head and it's been rolling around there for a while and I'm able to sort of vomit it out because that's usually how it happens. And you can step back when it's done, the finished product, whether it's a new design or if it's a redesign or something like that. And you can step back and go, that's pretty freaking awesome. And we just did that. You know, that's really sort of what they are. We don't stay in those moments.
We're not static.
You know, becoming complacent in those proud moments, it's got to be fleeting. Really, you can be proud and then move on.
That was freaking awesome. What's next?
That's exactly moving on.
And that's got to be your mindset, really.
It's got to be.
Absolutely.
You start living in that, hey, man, did you see what I did 7 years ago? You know, it's sort of like my son. I get on him a little bit because he's a pretty good BMX racer and he won a pretty big title when he was 9. So he's 14 now. So it's like, hey, buddy, don't you think it's time to take the trophies down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
You can't live in that past.
You're back in high school when our team went to this. And it's like,
before you know it, you're Al Bundy talking about high school football.
Exactly right.
It can happen.
But that's easy to do because, you know,
absolutely.
Listen, it's good to be proud of your moments and good to be proud of your successes.
And I think,
but you've got to always go, what's next?
Well, and I can say that until recently, we have not been really good at celebrating those moments.
We're terrible at celebrating.
We're terrible. We're not good.
Celebrate the highs.
But most successful
lows.
and, you know, really ambitious entrepreneurs all suffer from the same thing because we're always looking for what's next. How could we do that better? That when something great happens, we're like, freaking great. I'm looking forward. I'm not looking back.
Well, and that's exactly
and that
right.
makes it really hard.
It does. It's hard to celebrate those moments sometimes, the celebration of it.
Mm-hmm.
Being featured on television shows, being, published in shelter publications that are, world renowned. Those are all really amazing accolades. And we haven't, I think, necessarily fully captured or been able to capitalize on some of those moments because, like you said, we're already like light years. We're, I'm 3 months, 6 months, 12 months ahead. So sometimes Christopher will vomit these new products, and we have one of our biggest sellers for 2019 is 4 years old. Was the first prototype that we did. And he knew, he's like, this is the next thing. It's going to be this really beautiful, sleek, sexy, modern.
It gets a little tiring waiting for it to actually come to fruition.
It's really hard to wait for everybody.
It's like 18 months and it's like...
People just don't know how good I am yet.
Well, that's exactly right. They just don't know what they want to buy yet.
Liz forgot to mention that as she was throwing it out there, being on TV shows, being interviewed for this, best magazine in the world, and being on the best business podcast on the interwebs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
that's a pretty big deal.
We'll
So
let you
I
go.
actually think you
Yeah.
have a bigger subscribing audience than the TV show we were on. So you're good to
yeah,
go.
so I think this is actually.
I
this
want to
is
know
gonna
what
be-
this
Hey,
big,
we
sexy,
have-
sweet item is that's 4 years old that you.
Oh,
like
it's our
kids.
Monaco shuffleboard.
Oh, that thing.
It's gorgeous.
Monaco.
It's the Monaco.
Monaco.
It has really beautiful.
Oh, you're in the Monaco. That's the
Dude.
best freaking.
I know, of
F1
course it's the
racing
first one
track
I
in
looked
the
at.
world.
Well,
Yes.
there's
Of course
a
it
reason for that. Certainly. So listen, part of what we do is very authentic, and in everything that we do, everything has a name, and much like our children. And when people birth children, they give them names, and
They do?
sometimes they
Really?
do. Sometimes is yours like boy and girl. I mean,
No, it's girl 1, girl 2, and,
girl one, girl two.
Because
and
Hey, you.
granddaughter 1.
it's
Yeah, there
called
you go.
karma.
Karma.
And this poor guy's got a lot of it.
Yeah, it bites you in the ass daily, doesn't it?
It sure as hell does.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bites me? No, it freaking kicks the shit out. of me.
Yeah.
Kicks him into Jimmy.
But our Monaco was named certainly so each new design, the Savannah was the first that we did, and it had sort of gracious Southern styling.
And it was our first one in Georgia.
And it
so
was
had
our
to be
first
out
one
of
in
the-
Georgia. And so that felt really like the right thing to do. And
So-
when,
but every Sunday morning, me and my father would watch Formula One races.
yeah.
So,
Oh, I'm a huge F1 fan.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
So that was our thing. It's 7:30 on a Sunday morning.
So
on
now I know which one I'm
ESPN.
getting.
Yeah. It'll be the Monaco.
And
Monaco.
you know,
Yeah.
the Monaco sort of lent itself to that. Actually, I have an Ayrton Senna poster.
There's
and,
some cool stuff that you should come see at the shop.
He's one
Yeah.
of us.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was like we're reading sort of like the wins, and Monaco was on there. It was like, how about the Monaco?
Well, that was and that's our first. If you look at the rest of our line, is all sort of American, and the Monaco. We kept looking and looking and looking, and nothing sort of felt right. And then we started going into European, and Chris looked, and he was like, "The Monaco. That's definitely
so now you have to have the second version of it where when it is put on a yacht, the Monaco. The
Yeah.
Monaco 2, that you have self-leveling, so it's floating.
Well, it's funny when
Yeah.
you say that.
It's funny that you
So
say
we
yacht.
can't really say who it's for, but there are two.
There
of
are
our-
two
on a yacht.
On a yacht.
And is it self-level? Because
I didn't.
you're-
No.
I didn't fly over to Europe to see
You know,
the finished
when
product.
you
Yeah.
when you design that new
But when I
one,
get a chance, when
you
I
can send
talk,
the checks to 470 Commerce Drive.
Yeah.
Formula One banned auto leveling in 1993, so that technology has been varied.
Yeah,
But
it's
anyway.
gone.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's
out with
exactly
the
right.
Williams.
Yes. See, he is an F1 fan.
Yeah.
He even knew the team. Touche. Very good. Very good. Well, guys, I want to encourage you, check out Chris and Liz's business. It's Venture Shuffleboard, ventureshuffleboard.com. You guys are in retailers, but go to the website if you want to learn more about it. They build amazing game tables. They're works of art. I said that earlier, and I'm not bullshitting. If you don't believe me, go to the freaking website, people. They're amazing. Shuffleboard, ping pong,
Billiards,
cornhole, billiards,
foosball.
foosball. I mean, they're just awesome. And what I love about what you guys have done is you've built this business. You built it harder than doing a fresh startup, I think. And you've honored your dad's legacy,
Thank you.
and you have put your stamp on it. And I think it's hard to get away from your destiny, but I think you're fulfilling your destiny because this is just a really great business. I'm actually excited for the future for you guys.
Thank you.
Can't see where
Thanks,
this goes.
because I don't.
Oh my gosh.
Woof.
Your
You'll
dad's
figure it
got
out as you go along, as you have
Yeah.
every step
we're
of the way.
scratching our head a little bit right
We're
now.
at that
You know
next. We're at the next precipice for sure.
I'm
yeah.
sure your mom
But you
tells
will
you
figure
this.
it out, as
I
you
think
always
so.
have.
Yeah.
And you guys build incredible products. So if you've ever thought about getting a game table, you should get one. And don't buy some piece of shit from,
Texas.
I was
Darren.
going to say Walmart,
Oh,
but
you
sure.
don't-
Yeah,
gonna
no,
hold
those
back.
are. Yeah.
For all of our
yeah.
Texas subscribers, remember, send your email to Darren@beer.business,
And
not
it's
me,
not,
because
it's
he's the
not for the
jackass.
lovely people of Texas. It just
not.
might be for somebody else that builds
there's
shuffleboards.
a manufacturer in Texas who makes
I'm going
shitty
to do a PR
shuffleboard
campaign now to
tables.
Texas.
Oh,
Oh,
please. They
freaking
have.
Darren.
Yeah, be careful. You'll get a cease and desist.
Yikes.
You better
man.
listen to this podcast.
I'm going
quick.
to have to drive through Arkansas and Oklahoma just to get out to the west.
Jesus, man.
You're banned on I-10 through Texas. No, it's an inside
Now
joke.
you see why I actually had to take out an insurance policy just on him.
I'm sure you did. The liability on him. Holy
It's
shit.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My lawyer advised
I
against
will
it.
say
Yeah,
this.
I'm sure.
And I know it's your dad, but I guarantee Russ is quite proud of you guys.
Oh, yeah.
I
Thank
think
you.
he is too.
Yeah, I think what you've
You
done
gotta
is
be.
amazing. And again, ventureshuffleboard.com. We'll put links up on our website if you're, 3 sheets to the wind and you can't remember that tomorrow.
Like me.
yeah, like Darren.
I beat you
only
with a punch
boy.
that
I
time.
only see a sheet and a half over
Andy, you
here.
took
You
my
have some
joke.
catching up to do.
He always jokes about it. He's
Yeah.
like, and we're going to pour him into a cabin.
Yeah, which, one of these days I'm going to do. So we really appreciate you guys coming in, and I really appreciate you being so open about, the story of this business and how it's affected you guys. And I'm proud of what you've done. And I haven't been a part of this. This wasn't my family business, but I just, I know the plight of entrepreneurs very well. And I think what you guys have done is fantastic. So
Well, thanks for having
kudos
us.
to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been really awesome.
Yeah. So, I think it's going to be hard to top this, but if you know somebody that wants to be on the show, and I'm talking to you, our listeners, it's really easy. Darren, how can they do that?
Oh, if they want to be on the show, they can
Write the check to, no.
carrier pigeon, something to.
No, we have a website, Darren.
We do
It's-
have a website. Go to beer.business and then click on the link that says be on the show.
Yeah, it's really simple. See what we do there?
Simple
We
as that.
try to make it really simple for people.
That's
And how do
fantastic.
they, if they want to, now we also have a segment called Questionable Answers.
So we have people that will email us in questions or send them over social. And so we answer them the only way we know how, which is questionably. So we call it questionable answers. And if you have any questions about business, about, what it takes to start one,
Politics.
or if you just want to know why Darren's got empty whiskey bottles in his office all the time, we'd be happy to answer those questions. Just email them to podcast@beer.business. That's actually a true statement.
They're full now.
They won't be in about 24 hours.
Well,
Also, we're on the socials, and we're going to try to get better at that. But
gram.
Darren and I are old.
the Twitter,
Yeah, so
The
we're on
Facebook?
Instagram.
I can help you with that.
You can?
Yeah,
please.
I can help you with that.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So, make sure you follow us. We've got way more people that subscribe and listen to this podcast
Do
and
what?
follow us
What
on
do they do?
social.
Use the S word.
What are you talking about? Subscribe?
Yeah. How
Well,
do
you
they
should
do
do it.
that?
Hit the button that says freaking subscribe.
How much does that cost?
It's free dollars. We're pretty
Love
cool
it.
like that.
Love
yeah.
it.
Yeah, we don't have any hidden stuff behind the curtain that we make you pay for. We put all of our content out there for free. And we've been drinking Jailhouse beers. Jailhouse is the official beer of the Beer and Business Podcast. What'd you think of the beer, Chris?
The beer was fantastic.
Which one's better?
So I do enjoy a good Belgian. So that was really on point for today.
Yeah,
This
Penance.
cold, rainy day.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, the breakout stout with the chocolate and the coffee.
Whew,
That's one of my
flippin'
favorite
amazing.
beers
That's
of
a
all time.
great beer.
That thing is less
Oh, it's
than 30
perfect.
days in the can. He brews that once a year. That is the batch for the entire year. So if you want breakout stout, you better get your ass to Jailhouse now.
Yeah, Hampton,
Buy it
Georgia.
because
It's a great balance. And I got to tell you, the Belgian ale was on point.
Yeah, some of the best beer I've had anywhere come from Jailhouse. And we were very selective about the official beer of the Beer and Business Podcast.
Yeah.
And those guys brew a fantastic beer. Go
That's
to the
good.
you could drink that, huh?
I could drink that.
Yeah,
You're not
so-
a beer
Yeah.
drinker.
So a
No.
non-
Not a
somebody that
non-
doesn't
it's
drink
For
beer
Liz,
like-
she has to mix it with tea.
Maybe it probably tastes better because it came out of my glass.
That's exactly right.
That's what I'm
Check it out
saying.
at Darren's glass.
Darren will make these statements and I just get spontaneously nauseous. It's ridiculous. I don't know what the hell it is. So go to Jailhouse, folks. Just visit the brewery. They've got a beautiful new tap room called the Watchtower. And then this Thursday, tomorrow, that's the 21st of November, Darren, in case you're curious. There's live acoustic music with Hot Rod Walt Solitaire.
Oh, he's back again?
He's back again.
Damn,
he puts on a hell of a show. That's why he's asked back so many times. 7 o'clock is the start time, 7 p.m. He'll play till about 10. Or just go out there any day and pick out your breakout stout before I buy it all, because I'm going to do that
It's going to happen. So, Jake, you know where we are today?
here.
Here.
Yes. And here is,
Here is good. Here is
studio.
at Launch and Go Workspace.
yes.
And we are sitting in the podcast studio here at Launch and Go Workspace.
What do you guys think of the studio?
That's pretty fantastic.
Oh, that's coming from an audio engineer.
I like
Hell
it.
yeah.
I've been out of the business for a while. So
Now don't judge the table. I mean, this isn't a freaking Venture Shuffleboard table. We
I
need to
feel
work on
like
that.
you need an upgrade in here.
We do.
We are working on that, actually. I'm building
need-
Well,
another
not with me.
Well,
Well,
Touche.
Honestly, because
Looks like we have to have a talk after the show, guys.
Hey, if they would like to have, if we could sponsor our new table from Venture Shuffleboard and let them do it that way, we could talk about that.
We might need to talk.
Because I'm going to build something bar height now, and
Oh, that would be nice.
yeah,
You could build your first podcast table.
Yeah, there you
There
go.
you go. That could be a thing, right?
I think it's a thing.
I think it's a real thing. So,
We should talk about that.
Yes, we should.
Sounds
So
like
where
a
the hell
plan.
are we, Darren?
of course, we're going to talk about it because Liz just said it and she gave me that look, and it's like, oh, yes, ma'am. We'll
Now
talk about
he's
it.
just a little bit scared of me.
Well, put the knife away.
No, it's a
and I'll
lot.
be
He's
okay.
a wimp. Look at him.
Really scared. I see how Chris is like shaking in the corner sometimes when Liz talks. So
Oh,
I know
shit.
not to mess with her. No. So we've got some events coming up.
Where at? Darren,
Wait,
Darren,
no,
you haven't
you
even
haven't
said where the
given
hell we
fa-
are.
You have to-
we're at Launch
yeah,
and Go.
rewind.
How many times did I say?
None, zero.
Freaking launch and go, you
in the
knucklehead. It's your
pod-
business.
we're
I'm
in
sticking
the-
up for Darren. He said launch and go at least once.
Thank
Did he?
you.
Did he?
But-
God
yeah,
damn it,
just-
Chris. I'm trying to nail it to the wall here.
We are in the podcast studio here at Launch and Go, which if you are doing a podcast, or thinking about doing a podcast, you can rent this podcast
Don't
studio.
go spend the thousands of dollars that we did.
It's
Just
fully equipped. Chris, what do you think? You're an audio engineer. Is this a hell of a
I think
setup
it's
or
a great
what?
setup. I think it works out really well.
This is the shiznets, baby.
I'd even pay Darren to come in here. And that's saying something. Sorry, man.
You can rent the studio or you can come in here if you need a place to work for a day or get out of the house. I keep finding that more right now. There's a lot of people who come in for a tour and they're like, I'm tired of working at home. I'm here to check out your space. This would be a great place for me to come and work for a couple days a week. So if you need
Yeah.
a place to come and work a couple days a week, come down to Launch and Go and see me here. But now we're moving forward. Do you know that on December 4th, 1 Million Cups, we're having the event here at
Yes.
9 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Okay. And
What
so
the hell is 1 million cups?
1 Million Cups is a place where we have a couple presenters. They get to present their idea, their current business, project, whatever they're working on. It's a safe space for them to do a presentation, and it's free.
It's a hotbed for entrepreneurs.
But
Like if you have any entrepreneurial spirit whatsoever, you should come.
You
Yeah,
should.
because it's like a little incubator space,
It totally is.
right? That sounds really cool.
It
And,
really
and if you're
is.
like Darren,
Can I just come and visit and
Yes,
watch?
of
You
course,
can.
Yeah.
it's free.
it's free. It's
and
open
you
to
get to
anybody.
drink Bitter Bitch coffee and have Highland Bakery pastries.
Okay, so here I go. I'm so bougie. I don't drink coffee either, guys.
Well, there's tea.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So
I'm
we
here.
need to launch Bitter Bitch.
Shut
tea.
your mouth,
Oh my
McKay.
God. I love it. Chris got his pinky up right
You over there.
That's hilarious.
I hope that's an indicator
Yeah, so
about
you should
tea.
come
So,
because you'll probably get
Right.
an experience very similar to Darren, and you'll feel like you're not the smartest person in the worm. So you should totally
it
come. to that.
happens quite often. And then on December 7th is the holiday shopping spree. So this place is going to get flipped upside down. 20 vendors are coming in here to sell their products and service.
That's awesome,
So-
Darren.
It's perfect for men because I don't have to go to 20 different freaking stores.
No, you walk in the door and hand your
Walk
credit
in the
card
door.
over.
Hells
Boom,
yes.
boom, boom.
Right?
So,
Just freaking knock it
I
out.
love that.
so that's
Men
what-
are like 0 to done in the quickest time possible. That's the way to shop.
My husband goes shopping and comes home and hands
Your
it to
husband's
me.
right there.
I know. He goes shopping and comes home and hands
Usually
it
on
to me.
Christmas Eve.
and hands
Can
it
you
to
wrap your gifts for me?
No, he doesn't even wrap it. He
well,
hands it to me in the bag.
I don't even wrap it.
I
don't even
You're
ask her
such
to
a
wrap it.
man.
You
I
don't
love
even
it.
hide it and like save it till it's like, here,
No.
I got you this.
I've asked my wife to wrap her own presents.
Wow.
I've
I'm
done that.
really
I haven't
surprised.
done that.
Blindfold
See?
No.
I've done that.
Yeah,
Yes.
no.
with a blindfold on, or was it a blindfold? That
No, she knew what it
her
was. Like, can you
present?
wrap that
Oh, it was
for
a
yourself so
blindfold.
you can open it?
So-
Yikes.
And then what are we doing on November 30th?
on November 30th, do you guys like festivals?
We're big on festivals.
Yeah. Do you like festivals that are beer festivals?
I know
Beer
what this
festivals
is.
are fun festivals.
Oh, yes. I love beer festivals. Well, we've got one coming up on November 30th at Foxhall Resort
Mhm.
in Douglasville. It's the first annual Friendsgiving, right?
Friendsgiving Craft Beer Festival.
Yes.
Over 20 beer vendors are going to be out there. You pay a flat fee. They give you a glass and you drink yourself silly and listen to live
Yes,
music.
please.
Yes.
And there's food trucks. And you know who else is going to be out there?
Well, probably the best podcast on the interwebs.
Darren's going to be there.
Hot damn. Wow, I
Darren-
like the way you said that.
Darren's like a puppy. He'll be out there.
Hell yeah. And Jake.
Yes. The
So-
Beer and Business podcast will be at the Friendsgiving Craft Beer Festival.
Fantastic.
So we're going to be walking around doing kind of the man on the street thing, and we're going to record live from the Craft Beer Festival because where else would we be?
Why not?
Yeah, duh.
and catch snippets from everybody who's out there enjoying the day and having a great
Pretty
time.
stoked about
It's
it.
beautiful out there. So let's move on.
So it's Christmas time, guys. I know none of us want to think about that because it's early November, mid-November. But, we got to start our Christmas shopping. That means, you know what should be on everybody's Christmas list this year?
A Venture Shuffleboard.
A Venture Shuffleboard for sure,
Hell
which
yeah.
is a really expensive Christmas list. I got to need a
you
little
get
bit
the
more
corn-
money than I thought I did.
You need to
The
level
cornhole
up,
set.
friend.
I do.
You need to level
Yes,
up.
I'm going to raid my savings
You
account.
guys have cornhole though.
Yeah, we do.
have cornhole.
But here's the
It's-
thing.
Yes.
If you go out and you buy people these beautiful shuffleboards, which you should do,
They'll love you
you're not going to
forever.
have any money left over. So for everybody else on your Christmas list, you can get them the Beer and Business podcast.
Oh, there you go.
The
That's awesome,
subscription's
right?
free.
It's
$3.
$3.
So spend
It's-
all your money with these guys, and then just don't pay us anything. I don't even know how the hell we're going to stay in business. Anyways, when you download our stuff, you can feel really good about it because we're securely hosted by Overwatch technology. Do you guys like Putin?
He's
The Russian?
Yeah.
Yes, the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. Do you like him? No, he's a jackass. He's trying to get in your computer and
I
put
was-
viruses and shit on there. No, you don't like this guy. He's a
Yeah,
a
no.
weirdo.
Right. No. And that's why Jeremy takes good care of you guys at Overwatch, right?
He does,
Yeah.
yes. Jeremy Anderson, the CEO of Overwatch. He takes really good care of us. Thank God we're securely hosted by them. And we do have a tech tip from Overwatch. So, you're going to get a lot of emails around the holidays as you're shopping and stuff. Do you guys have, so you know what malware is, right? Malware gets on your computer and just freaking screws it up. It's like a virus, but it's awful. It'll slow it down. You don't want this stuff on your computer. Well, a lot of these emails that you're going to get around the holidays, well, they'll have something called a malicious URL. Do you know what a malicious URL is?
It sounds bad. Sounds like
really mean.
I got to
It's
go to the
bad.
doctor and get a shot for it.
Right?
So a malicious
Sounds contagious.
So here's what'll happen.
It actually is.
You'll get an email and it'll
It
look
is.
like it came from a legit company, like, oh, this came from Amazon. And it'll have like a link to click and it'll have a return email, but it'll say it came from Amazon.net. Well, it's Amazon.com, right? So they use these malicious URLs. They're close, or it looks like, Google security team. You're like, oh, this is from Google. No, it's not. It's, some crazy Russian sitting in Putin's basement coming up with these malicious freaking URLs.
I thought all
So
he wanted was breadsticks.
he does. He already got that. He hacked
And he's
into
got-
Olive Garden
And he's
his
got
breadstick
Hillary's
recipe.
emails, so what the hell else does he need?
Well, he wants everything. This guy is just, insatiable. So watch when you get these emails, pay very close attention to the links or the email addresses that they come from. If you have any question about an email you get, just go to a source that you know is that company. Like if it was Amazon, go in the app or call a number that you know is theirs. Don't click on the
Venture
freaking link.
Shuffleboard.
Next thing you know,
That's right.
it's downloading something and you got freaking malware on there. And if you don't have Overwatch, then that malware is really screwing your computer up. So don't do it.
So you can go to overwatch.technology and have them come protect your computers for
Yes, you can.
personal or business.
Yes, you can. And you should. Because if you use a computer and, well, you know what? I practice safe computing, guys.
That's a good thing.
I have
Yes.
Overwatch. I'm just saying.
Well, he also puts a little finger, the little protection.
Okay,
on his
Darren, too
index
far.
Finger.
I don't
Too
use
far.
typing condoms. That's ridiculous, Darren.
So we're going to close out with the
Some words of wisdom from
Words
the
of
finger
wisdom.
condom guy.
Well, it says Sage of Suds, but I'm not really the Sage
You're
of
not the
Suds.
sage of suds.
So that's you. But I am going to, we will close out with some words of wisdom. And it is coming into the holiday season. And there's a lot of folks, we all hopefully like to play games as a group. And we know our kids enjoy playing games. They're in the younger generation and they always want to play video games. And I will tell you this, sitting with your kids playing video games is one thing. And it does kind of create a little bit of a bond. But you know what? Turn the electronics off. Okay. Every year for Christmas, I try to pick out 3 different types of board or card games. So we can sit around the table, look at each other in the face, eye to eye, and engage with one another. And it builds that type of camaraderie, that bond that you really need. As an older generation, we're used to that. You're used to looking at somebody in the eye when you talk to them, not just going back and forth on the phone or talking to them side by side. And I will say this, Venture Shuffleboard does the same thing. I mean, they do that with their games. You're side by side, bumping elbows, playing certain games. Other ones, you're looking at that person. I'm throwing those bean bags across the way, and I'm like, I'm taking you down, but my partner's right next to me, so they got me. So they're involved in this, and it's fabulous. So if you want to maintain that bond with your family, with your friends, just go buy some board.
Play a game. And, you know, Darren's getting choked up because he knows this year he's buying a shuffleboard, a ping pong table, a foosball table.
Gosh.
Dude, you're going to be freaking broke this
My
year,
bank
buddy.
account just went to zero. That's why it's like, oh my gosh, I just spent too much money. Well, we have game night here too, though.
We do. And it's so important. Games are it's such a great thing. Everybody loves games. Everybody. It doesn't matter how old you are. They bring us together. And unfortunately, the young people, they've just really succumbed to video games, which strips away the most important element of playing games, and that is the social interaction. So
Connecting.
yeah,
Well, and it is the physical interaction.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So love the ones you're with, play games with them. Obviously with Darren being emotional, I'm going to have to, package him up in a taxi this week, and, we'll see you next week.